Folks, I believe we're just making sure the streaming is all set up. Okay, so we're live, and then Chair, whenever you'd like to start the meeting, staff is ready.
Great, thanks, Justine. So I'll now call this meeting of the California Strategic Growth Council to order, and I'm going to ask Justin, Special Project Analyst, to lead the roll call. Justin.
Great. So Director Acefa.
Here.
Public Member and Vice Chair Frank Cardenas.
Here.
Secretary Moss.
Present.
Undersecretary Kaylee E. Bright.
Here.
Deputy Secretary Jameson. Joining shortly. Deputy Secretary Eisent.
Present.
Deputy Secretary Kingsley.
Present.
And Assistant Chancellor Lucero.
Present.
Chief Equity Officer Torres.
Present.
And virtually Public Member Capretz.
Here.
Excellent. All right. So we do have quorum, Chair.
Perfect. So Justin, could you share today's public comment procedure?
All right, everyone, bear with me here. So thank you, Chair, and thanks to everyone joining us today in person, online, or by phone through the Zoom webinar platform, or where the meeting is being live streamed on SGC's YouTube channel or Cali PA's live webcast. I'll provide some information to help guide us all through the processes for this hybrid meeting, which is designed to maximize access by members of the public. For those joining the webinar online via Zoom or by phone, please note that your microphone is automatically muted when you join. In order to minimize the risk of background noise, you will not be able to unmute your phone yourself. For those joining online via Zoom, please note that the webinar platform does not enable video for attendees, so we will not be able to see you. If you need technical assistance during the meeting or have a question about the meeting process, there are a few ways to contact us. If you are using the online Zoom webinar, the best way is by using the Q&A function. Note that our staff may remove disruptive or threatening content. And if you've joined by phone, but you have access to email, please email sgc.info@sgc.ca.gov. If you do not have access to email, you may call 916-324-9775. If you plan to make in-person public comment, please fill out the public comment card provided at the table near the back of the room and indicate your name and which item you would like to comment on, and then return it to the table. When the chair opens the public comment period for your item, please listen for your name and line up by the podium here to my right in the order in which you are called. If you plan to make public comment remotely, you must be joining the meeting via Zoom, either through your desktop or phone app, or by calling in by phone. To make a public comment, visit sgc.ca.gov/meetings-events/council. This is shown on the slide here as well, and complete the public comment form linked there. You will need to complete separate forms for each item on which you wish to speak. You may complete a form at any time prior to the beginning of the public comment period. When the chair opens the public comment period for your item, we will read the names of everyone who's submitted a form for that item. When you hear your name in that list, please raise your hand. To do this online in the Zoom webinar, click Raise Hand under the Participants menu, and you can find that at the bottom of your screen. To raise your hand by phone, press *9. When it's your turn to speak, a member of our team will unmute your microphone from our end. And if you are online, you will see a window pop up alerting you that the host is unmuting you. You need to click the option to approve unmute. And after that, you can begin your comment. If you're on the phone, you'll hear a recorded message alerting you that your line is unmuted. You can begin your comment after you hear the recorded message. And if you're having any trouble, you can try *6 to unmute from your end as well. If you are unable to complete the online form but would like to make a public comment, please email sgc.info@sgc.ca.gov. Almost done here. Each speaker will have a maximum of 2 minutes to make their remarks. Please monitor the timer that will appear on the screen and wrap up your remarks accordingly. You'll be notified when your time is up, and then we will mute your microphone, and you do not need to take any additional action afterward. Thank you all for your participation, and I will hand it back to you, Chair.
Great, thanks, Justine. We'll now move to item 3, which is the approval of the April 29th, 2026 meeting minutes. Members may not have attended that meeting to vote on the adoption, but may abstain. We'll have the opportunity for council discussion, then followed by public comments. With that, Justine.
I do not see any public comment on minutes. One moment, I'm receiving. Okay, yep, confirmed. No public comment on this item.
Any questions, comments from council members on the minutes?
You need a motion, Chair?
Seeing none, yes. Could we have a motion in a second?
So moved.
I second.
Yes, we have a motion in second.
Great. So I'll take roll call vote to approve the minutes. Director Acefa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cardenas,
Yes.
Secretary Moss,
Aye.
Undersecretary Bright,
Abstain.
and Deputy Secretary Jameson. Oh, pardon, she's not here yet. Making a note. Okay. Deputy Secretary Eisend,
Yes.
Deputy Secretary Kingsley,
Abstain.
Assistant Chancellor Lucero,
Yes.
and Chief Equity Officer Torres.
Yes.
And Public Member Capretz.
Yes.
Excellent. The minutes are approved.
Great. Now we move to item 4, which is the Executive Director's report. So ask Executive Director Aaron Curtis to present item 4, which is the report, and followed by the presentation. We'll have the opportunity for council discussion, then we'll have public comments. Aaron?
Thank you, Chair. I'm told I have to be close to the microphone. It's wonderful to see you all. It's been a while. We've been busy since we saw you in April with grant programs, initiatives, all the Strategic Growth Council excitement, and I'm really excited to come here today and talk to you about what the staff has been busy to do. We do have some new members of our team, so we can go to the next slide. There we go. Mario Valadez has joined us as a new Resilient Community Associate Planner with the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program. Melanie Robles, our summer intern supporting Connecting Communities. And we are also welcoming Nima Inayati, a student assistant supporting our Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program. SGC has always been very blessed, at least in my experience, with a lot of great interns, student assistants, and fellows. They are really valued members of our team. So we just want to welcome all 3 of our new members. We did, yes, yay. And Melanie's in the back here. We did have to say goodbye to a couple of people as well, unfortunately. Alex Kroll, our Civic Spark Fellow, has just concluded, or I think maybe is about to just conclude her fellowship. She was working with our factory-built housing pilot program team. She's been an incredible member of the team, and I will just divulge that she is joining the Peace Corps and going to Fiji. So I let her know that we will be right here when she comes back. But we are very, very proud of her and very appreciative of the ability to work with her over the last year. And Joyce Say, our Resilient Community Associate Planner for the Transformative Climate Communities Program, has also said goodbye, and we wish her well. She's on an epic adventure as well. Go ahead, next slide. All right. Well, we've been making an impact for sure. New homes, lots of celebrations over the last several months. Since our last meeting in April, SGC programs have celebrated groundbreaking and grand opening events for transit-oriented affordable housing developments funded through the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities and our Transformative Climate Communities programs. We also celebrated the success and the incredible efforts of our TCC Round 1 grantees. with a celebration in Watts, Los Angeles. It marked 10 years of TCC, and I'm very appreciative of several of our council member agencies who were represented at that event. And of course, Chair Acefa joined us and spoke to the group. It was a great, successful celebration. And we have also been conducting grant program outreach, and we've supported applicants statewide. And we held a couple of more regional catalyst convenings. These are just a few of our highlights. All right, go ahead, next slide. All right, so since May, we're proud to share that our Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities program has celebrated grand openings and groundbreakings for projects that we've funded across the state. We held grand opening ceremonies, or were a part of them, at Colibri Commons in East Palo Alto, the Santa Monica and Vermont Transit-Oriented Development in East Hollywood, and Middlefield Junction in Redwood City. Groundbreaking celebrations were held for the Villas in Red Bluff, the Berryessa Transit-Oriented Development in San Jose, and Mills Ranch in King City. So you can see we're all over the state, up and down. And combined, just those 6 projects I mentioned will create almost 800 new affordable homes. And the benefits don't stop there. The projects will account for 8 new zero-emission vehicles, 5 lane miles of new bus-only lanes, 12.6 lane miles of new bikeway, and 33,000 new safe and accessible sidewalks. In total, those projects are estimated to remove about 150,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions from California's air, and that's like taking 35,000 gas-powered vehicles off the road for a year. So that's an impact. These projects are not all the housing news we've been celebrating either. With funding from the Transformative Climate Communities program, the city of Coachella recently broke ground on its first ever affordable senior housing complex, Casa Siena. That development will include 52 units and amenities, is located near key resources for seniors such as transit and shopping. I just want to make a big shout out and thank you to the staff and congratulate all of our partners and the new and upcoming residents of these communities. All right, next slide. So the TCC program, in partnership with the Housing Authority of the City of LA, as I said, hosted a commemorative event in Watts for the closing of our Round 1 implementation grants. This happened in July. The event celebrated the successes and the lessons learned from all 3 trailblazing Round 1 grantees: Ontario Together with the City of Ontario, Transform Fresno with the City of Fresno, and Watts Rising, which was done in partnership with the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles. We were thrilled to have council members and staff there. Thank you so much, Chair Acefa, for being there. And we're really happy that so many of our council member agency staffers were able to see and hear firsthand the impact of this program. It empowers communities most impacted by pollution to choose their own goals, strategies, and projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reduce local air pollution and build resilience in the face of extreme weather and myriad other challenges these communities face. In the last 10 years, the Strategic Growth Council's program has awarded more than $424 million through TCC to 37 communities across California. More to come in round 6. Next slide. Our tribal capacity building program teams have been traveling to visit our project sites and meet our grantees where they are. $1.45 million was awarded to our round 1 grantees, and that includes all of those that you see up on the screen. In July, our staff traveled to the far north of the state, up in Trinidad, to conduct our final site visit of the 6 to learn about how their program is empowering their tribe to turn community priorities into real housing and climate-related projects. With the 2 programs under our Tribal Housing and Capacity Building Initiative open for applications right now, we look forward to applying what we've learned from these first 6 grantees in upcoming rounds. And we hope to bring some of these awardees to a future council meeting so that they can share directly with you what they've been able to accomplish through this new pilot program. All right, next slide, please. So this month, I joined some of you on a forest to housing tour led by the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, along with one of my deputies, Sean Kennedy. This forest to housing initiative and several that are moving forward across the state and around the country, are focused on removing biomass from forests that can fuel intense wildfires, put that wood to use locally to sustainably build housing. It's a circular economy approach that cuts air pollution, reduces catastrophic wildfire, and creates local housing and local jobs. We're very excited to see what's to come from this novel approach. Next slide. So just yesterday, we held our 7th of 9 regional Catalyst convenings right here in Sacramento. This one was focused on the Sierra Nevada region, and given the large region that the Sierra Nevada region makes up and the fact that it takes a long time to get from one end of that to another, we heard from the community that it was easier to hold that in Sacramento, so that's what we did. Each of these convenings brings about 150 regional partners together to exchange knowledge, best practices, and successes about community-driven events and efforts, connect directly with state representatives and regional assistance providers. We're very grateful for several council member agencies and departments being represented there. Thank you very much. And we are there to co-create a set of regional and state-focused policy actions that guide the Strategic Growth Council's strategic planning and our work. Huge shout out to the SGC Connecting Communities team, the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, with whom we partner with these Catalyst convenings, and our partners from the UC Berkeley Possibility Lab and the California Climate and Energy Collaborative for ensuring that all of these convenings are a success, and they absolutely have been. Next up is the North Coast Catalyst convening. It will be held in September up north. If folks are listening and are interested, information is on our website on how to register. We are very much looking forward to seeing and sharing the ideas and actions that come out of these convenings at future council meetings with all of you as well. Next slide. All right, more to come today. I won't steal my own thunder or others, but that concludes the executive director's report.
Great, thanks, Erin. I'm always just amazed about so the work that comes out of these programs, especially TCC. But we'll talk about that during council conversation. But just want to ask Justin to remind us on the public comments.
Yes. So if members of the public would like to comment on this item, please submit a public comment card at the front table or side table. To make virtual public comment, please visit sgc.ca.gov/meetings-events/council and complete the public comment form. At this time, Chair, I do not see any public comment on this item.
Yeah, we'll start with council discussion, and then if there's any, we can move.
Great. And then, Chair, apologies, but just a reminder to keep the microphone very
Oh,
close.
sorry.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Great. We'll open it up to council discussions, but I just want to note again, I think we all say this often, but it is so transformative to just be on the places that are impacted by these programs, not just look at the products, the outcome, more importantly, actually talking to the people who are making it happen, or just at least listen to from their perspective. Is just so informative. And the more we do that, the better actually for the programs as well. And then the Catalyst convenings as well. Again, a different format. I think incredible opportunity for state agencies to listen, partnerships to come together and talk about both successes and failures. That's a great forum. And I think the one I attended, you could see the need, because people come all the way from Sierra Nevada and the place was packed. So really kudos to both LCI and SGC continuing to convene that really successful program. So very exciting. That I'll open it up to colleagues who want to comment. Sarah, did you have your hand? Oh, good. Please go.
So thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add in that I was at the Department of Conservation when those first rounds of TCC grants went through, and just watching the staff work seamlessly between DOC, SGC, and the partners to really create a whole new way of doing government, doing grant programs, thinking through not only the policy vision, but also engineering the complexity of invoices, all the administrative complexity that went behind these grants. And I think there's no way for any of us to fully grasp what kind of lift that was by those just tremendously mission focused staff, and just give them all the respect and kudos that, it's one of those experiences in my career where I was just completely amazed, and I'm proud to be alongside of them for the ride. So thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to join in the chorus of, it's such a great highlight reel from April to now to see all of the incredible work that the staff and teams are doing, and that it is in fact materializing in our communities across the state. And that's the translation of government to community that I really appreciate. So congratulations for all of the work that has been happening. And it's been nice to join when I can, to be able to celebrate when we are not as proximate to the work as we want to be sometimes. A quick question. I am inspired always by the Catalyst convenings. I think that they're a great way to bring our partners together across the region, statewide. And I'm curious if there is a objective around what comes from those convenings. Is there a sort of geographic strategy that comes from what is collected in those conversations? Is it then that each region sort of coalesces around an agenda? I'm just curious. It feels like such a powerful structure and infrastructure that many people commit to. So I was just curious what happens with the work after the meeting.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And if Adrienne wants to come up, I would welcome it. And while she's coming up, I will just say that it's a huge database of information that we will have at the end of these convenings. And we do have a lot of plans to data mine. And in particular, for our own priorities here with the Strategic Growth Council, to bring what we've been hearing to you all. But Adrienne, if you want to go into more detail.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's such an exciting opportunity to hear directly from 9 different regions across the state. When we hosted statewide conferences in 2023 and 2024, the biggest feedback was, can you come to us? Because all of our priorities and needs and really assets are very unique and different region to region. We're hearing that when we went to the Central Valley, where public health was one of the biggest concerns. Yesterday in the Sierras, a lot of discussion around extractive economic development and tourist economy, wildfire resilience, and region to region, we see those differences. We've very quickly had to adapt in the LA region after the fires when we started this about a year and a half ago. So yeah, we're collecting all of the kind of problem statements that we turn into policy actions region by region. We do want to see where there's consistency, because a lot of the issues, as you can imagine, are consistent. And then I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to bring that to you as a council and really tee up the next administration to understand where can SGC infuse all of those actions in our strategic planning and our priorities and our work, and really to help understand region by region where there's uniqueness. We will be going back to regions again in the coming year or so. So it's another opportunity for us to say, this isn't just a one-off where you're telling us all of these things that you want the state to take action on, but for us to make good on that through SGC's work, all of the things we're already doing and making progress on, and then going back to the region to say, here's how we're implementing this. So we will be bringing UC Berkeley's Possibility Lab, who is working with us on the analysis of this by the end of the year, to council to really talk through and give you a great summary region by region where we're seeing consistency, and then our plans for going forward, starting now, but 2027 and beyond.
Thank you, Chair. Just a follow-up comment. I'm so glad to hear that, because it feels like we're bringing people together for such a rich experience to be able to then have a through line between what the council's priorities are and what the community's priorities are is the point. I would just say, I think SGC also does a really good job of bridging our rural communities and our urban communities. So I really look forward to understanding how do we set priorities for our rural communities as we do our urban across the state, because that's often a place where we know our communities are under-resourced and may not have as loud a voice in the room. So really looking forward to that feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, Dita, that was a fantastic question and response as well. I think that's where the value absolutely is. I think we've gone through, a number of council priorities over the last few years, right? Those came from listening sessions. And I think this one is 10x because of the significant amount of participation. And obviously, the regional representation is critical because that then brings out the nuances of, what are appropriate policy initiatives that are a high priority based on listening the people who are actually impacted by it. And that's in part why I think this process works really well, and this convening provides such incredible value.
Chair, I know that Public Member Capretz
I
had
can't
raised her
see
hand.
here, but yes, I can't imagine she would not comment about
Mhm.
what.
Exactly.
Nicole?
Well, thank you. I have been sitting on this council since 2019, I think, or 2018. Brown was still the governor. That's how long it's been. And I just want to honor the evolution of this agency. And it's been extraordinary. And this has to be the most responsive government agency on the planet. I've really never seen anything like it. Like the model you all are setting and what is possible for the relationship between the community and government is truly unparalleled. I've never seen anything like it. And I think, yeah, prime example of that, thank you, Chair, for raising it, is when I first visited Watts TCC, I'm not sure what year they were in, but it was maybe one, maybe year two, I'm not sure. But it was at the beginning stages and they were just sort of outlining their vision for us. And we did see a few things that had started, making progress. But to go, I think, so then having just gone back a few months ago, I'm guessing it was 6 or 7 years. It was mind blowing. I mean, I am still in awe. I still talk about it, and I want to remain a champion for TCC as much as I can because I know there's a lot of moving parts right now around it. But I think it's, yeah, just top-notch program in every way. I was stunned by the transformation in Watts, just all the collaboration, coordination. It just felt like a community that was connected and felt protected and safe. And it felt like there was a vibrancy there that obviously I didn't feel the first tour. And so I really just want to give kudos to obviously the community, all the government agencies involved, SGC, all the leaders, under different governors. It's just truly that's been my favorite part of this whole ride on SGC is going from the first round of the first visit to Watts to the most recent. Because it's just when you get to experience that, I'm probably one of the few people that have been able to see that from the very beginning to like 7 years later. It just makes you reassess like what we should be dreaming about and thinking about and planning to make life different for a lot of people. And so anyhow, it was, and I thought, Aaron, you and your crew did an excellent job planning and making that whole thing happen. So thank you, and making it accessible for me. And yeah, so I love Secretary Moss, when you called it a highlight reel of all the things the state has been doing. That's the final comment I just want to make is as a perfect encapsulation of how I thought about it. But really, it's centered around the fact that, yes, you've gone out to the community, which again, having been here and 6 or 7 years ago was not happening. So now to see all these photos of you all, at all corners of the state, again, just reestablishing the belief that government is a force for good, which I think is just such an incredibly important thing to reestablish. So you all are part of that. You always, that'll be part of your legacy, and grateful I just get to be a witness to that. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Nicole. And having worked in a number of states and cities, I can attest to your comment. There truly is not a government organization set up like SGC. 7 agencies, secretaries, staffs, everything that is really interconnected. I can attest, actually, there isn't. I mean, I'm not seriously in terms of how effectively to translate what we talk about often, that ideas should come from the ground up. I don't know of any government organization that is well suited to actually help make that happen. So I hope that would continue. But thanks, to, of course, staff. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, thanks for the opportunity. I also want to congratulate our staff, but also my peers and their predecessors, particularly during this administration. This is a remarkable interagency body with an absolutely tremendous staff. But what has really what I've remarked at since I've been here, I guess it's 4 years now, is that this truly is a bottoms-up organization that takes listening to people and meeting them where they are very, very seriously. And that's what drove Adrian's and team's decision to move from the statewide catalyst conferences, which I thought were absolutely terrific, to the regional convening so that we could meet people where they truly are and make it easier for them to share with us the transformation that they believe we need to continue to make as we transition into a new and cleaner economy. Adrian mentioned that there's an opportunity here for us to tee things up for the next administration, and that I think that should resonate with all of us wherever we are in the impending transition, because there's been, and I say this as a public member, I don't report, bless you. I don't report to the governor. I admire him tremendously, and I would hope that we do have a report on the regional convenings by December, if at all possible, so that we can tee things up, and so that the next administration, the next folks who get the privilege of sitting up here, know what they're inheriting, have a guidepost, right, and some guidelines, and have some kind of an orientation as to where we can move California in the next stage. There's no need to start from scratch, because there's been amazing work that has been done by this administration. And I just want to congratulate, in particular, my peers up here, and Wade and everybody else who has served on this council, particularly during this administration. So, Aaron, I look forward to, if we can do it by December, having that report back.
Second that. Anyone else? Seeing none, any public comments?
No public comment on this item.
Well, so the next item is actually a good segue. This is my other favorite part, because we listen from the people who are actually making stuff happen on the ground with the programs and grants, and which really complements, again, the other type of listening, but hearing it here. So item 5 is a discussion item. This is a panel of regional climate collaborative grantees showcasing success and lessons learned from collective capacity building. So I'd like to invite Anna Lupin, Program Manager for Community Assistance for Climate Equity CASE Program, to present this panel.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Asefa and council members, and good afternoon. It's great to hear all of this love for SGC and all of our community-led work, and I hope to keep that train going with our conversation on the Regional Climate Collaboratives Program. We can go to the next slide, please. So the Regional Climate Collaboratives Program is a really unique program in state government, and it's one that I'm really excited to be able to share the outcomes from today. This was our first round of the program. And it was really created out of recognition from Senate Bill 1072 that many of the most climate vulnerable communities in our state are the same communities that lack the capacity to advance projects and access funding to build their resilience. The RCC program is meant to be able to build up that capacity of those critical community serving organizations and strengthen the connections between them to be able to advance that collective climate action. Through this program, our grantees take a really intentional approach to developing a community-led vision for climate mitigation, adaptation, and resilience, and to advance projects and access funding to bring that vision to fruition. So in our first round in 2023, we were able to provide $8.35 million to fund 6 collaboratives across the state, which incorporate 62 different organizations through their work. And we can go to the next slide. So these are the 4 program objectives for our program. We have developing actionable projects and plans, building social infrastructure, that kind of connective tissue between organizations to really sort of build the civic infrastructure of communities, centering community engagement and decision-making, and developing equity-centered processes. So really thinking about how are these programs really instigating systems change within regions and on the local level. And we can go to the next slide. So as you can imagine, this program was pretty hotly sought after. We had a lot of folks throughout the state who were excited about an opportunity to have this flexible funding source to be able to build their capacity to do climate-related work. And so we received 86 pre-proposals from across the state, covering 56 out of the 58 counties. We received 45 full proposals. And we were 8 times oversubscribed in our program. So, at the end, we ended up with these great 6 awardees. But just really want to emphasize that there was a lot of work that went into sort of developing the program and a lot of folks who were excited about it and had a lot of great proposals. We can go to the next slide. So here are the 6 grantees that we were able to support through the grant. They focus on rural, suburban, and urban areas across the state. 3 of our collaboratives include tribal partners, and 2 of them are tribal-led. And they represent a diverse cross-section of different climates and landscapes, cultures, and approaches. So I'm really excited today to have representatives from 3 of those collaboratives here to share their successes, outcomes, and lessons learned through the program, and we'll get a chance to hear from them in a moment. We can go to the next slide. So just to really sort of key in on outcomes, because I think something that is often challenging with capacity building is really trying to sort of tease out, like, what are the outcomes of this work? So the RCCs were able to access $85 million in competitive grant funding. 165 competitive grant applications were submitted for a total of $233 million. They held more than 600 internal meetings, 540 external meetings, including more than 250 different convenings and community engagement events, and engaged more than 12,500 community members across all of their work. So just really fantastic work across the state. And one thing that I really want to emphasize as well is that all of this was happening, in the context of us having a budget crisis at the state level and federal funding getting cut. So I think, it's really incredible that they were able to access all of this funding and really draw it down into some of the most under-resourced communities in our state. So we can go to the next slide. And I'm going to try to keep this super short so we can get to the really interesting part of the conversation with our panelists, but just really want to emphasize, like, why does this panel matter? And why does this program matter? So, so far, the legislation that created this program called for us to have at least 2 rounds of the program. We were able to have 1 round, and our funding unfortunately got cut for the 2nd round due to the budget crisis. And so, I think it's a really important point to be able to kind of emphasize the value of this work and how unique this approach is. I think it's something that can be really valuable for other state programs as well. And then also, I think a lot of times we at the state have these great programs, and then maybe they die out, and then maybe we have another program. And so really trying to make sure that we are highlighting the lessons learned so that they can really be infused into the other capacity building work that's happening. So really excited for this conversation, and we can go to the next slide here. So I can introduce our panelists today. So today we are lucky enough to have Christine Tran from the San Joaquin Council of Governments, which is the managing partner for the San Joaquin Regional Climate Collaborative. This collaborative has brought local jurisdictions and community partners together to better understand shared climate impacts and identify regional solutions. And she's going to talk a little bit more about the community advisory board they created and the work that they've done through their collaborative. We also have Naire Herrera from Canal Alliance, who's the managing partner of the Marin Climate Justice Collaborative. This collaborative brings together community and government partners to advance climate justice for low-income residents and communities of color in Marin County. Through education, leadership development, and community-driven planning, this collaborative empowers residents most affected by climate change to shape local decision-making and build a safe, equitable, and resilient future for communities. And then last, but of course not least, we have Eileen Quinn from the Gateway Cities Council of Governments, who's representing the Gateway Cities Regional Climate Collaborative, which convenes, educates, and encourages collective action for and by community members and stakeholders to combat the causes and effects of climate change by increasing access to new and existing resources throughout the Southeast Los Angeles communities. So want to welcome the three of them. So happy to have them here. And we're just going to kick things off by starting with Christine, and would love, Christine, if you can kind of share a little bit about the process of establishing the community advisory board that you developed as a part of the San Joaquin Regional Climate Collaborative. Talk a little bit about how it helped you to build relationships within your communities of focus and with your cities.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me here this afternoon. So I'll start by talking about the process of establishing our community advisory board, which I'll refer to as our CAB. This has been a really valuable part in helping us build stronger relationships with both communities and our local jurisdictions. One of the biggest benefits was that it created a formal and ongoing space for collaboration. Instead of approaching community engagement at a one-time opportunity, to provide input, the CAB gave us a structure for having regular conversations with CBOs, other residents, local government, and other regional partners throughout the project. That was really important for us because it allowed community members to be involved not just at the beginning, but throughout the process. They were able to help us identify local needs, share priorities, raise concerns, and provide feedback as the project developed over time. It also created more opportunities for us to hear directly what was happening on the ground and better understand how regional priorities connect and how that could benefit the experiences of individual communities. The recruitment process for the CAB itself was also an important part of building our relationship. We were intentional about reaching out to residents and ensure that we have a diverse range of voices represented from different communities. We worked really closely with our different RCC partners who are mostly CBOs. And having those CBOs alongside us has really helped guide the conversation with the residents and also paving the way to identify where the community members are, going to them instead of having them come to us. And so that really helped us with getting involvement with community events, hosting educational workshops, social media, as well as any other community-based opportunities. I also think having cities and agencies involved was a really key part of having our CAB. It was a shared experience because a lot of our residents, we realized, weren't aware of different resources and programs that the cities and region is offering. And so having our residents at the table and sharing those resources made a huge difference. And an example of that was city staff that joined our CAB meetings were able to share certain resources like free bus rides to cooling centers, which a lot of residents weren't aware of. And so kind of having a shared space for that on a regular basis made a really big difference for community members.
And that ongoing relationship is really the most important outcome. The CAB gave us a foundation for continued communication and collaboration rather than engagement at just the end of our project. And so that was a really key part of our community advisory board. Yes, of course. So I mentioned we meet with our residents on or I didn't mention, but it's on a bi-monthly basis. And at these meetings, we bring the work that we're doing and we ask them for feedback, whether it's about our educational workshops for topics, our sustainable neighborhood plan development, the projects that we've listed in there, if it makes sense to them, if there's anything missing. So we really made sure all of our deliverables had community voices in there.
Oh, shoot. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot the mic. Great. Thank you so much, Christine. That's really helpful. Naide, I'd love to go to you and would love to hear a little bit about the Marin Climate Justice Collaborative. You all were first formed by applying to the RCC program and brought together 2 underinvested communities within Marin County. And so I'm curious to hear a little bit about the relationships and partnerships that came out of that work and kind of why you all took that approach.
Yeah, hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, so the Marine Climate Justice Collaborative brought together the Canal neighborhood in San Rafael and then Marin City, which is an unincorporated community in Marin County. And one of the significant outcomes from the RCC work was the building of resident leadership and community capacity in the Canal and Marin City, as I mentioned. Through the RCC, residents in both of those communities were able to gain the knowledge, skills, and confidence to participate more meaningfully in these planning processes and decision-making that affect their communities. Now, getting to your question about the relationships that came out of the collaborative, it helps strengthen relationships among CBOs, both locally but across the region. Brought together folks from public agencies across the different levels of government. So we have city partners, county partners, and also technical partners. And so bringing together all of those folks in the collaborative really created new opportunities for community voices. Sorry, I feel like the mic is cutting in and out a little bit. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So really created these opportunities for community voices to be brought in to influence resilience planning. So one example is Canal Alliance played an active role in shaping the city of San Rafael's sea level rise feasibility study. So this feasibility study not only documented the risks that the Canal neighborhood faces, but also documented one of the most important community priorities, which is folks in the Canal residents really want climate adaptation without massive displacement of the current residents of the neighborhood. And for Marin City, the Marin City Climate Resilience really leveraged the partnerships and momentum that they generated through the RCC to secure funding for infrastructure needs that exist in the community. One of those examples was accessing the Army Corps funding to be able to improve drainage infrastructure that would help alleviate some of the chronic flooding that really impacts the community in Marin City. They also were able to access funding for water pipe improvements. So they have an affordable housing community in Marin City that doesn't have clean drinking water, but also experiences other forms of chronic habitability issues due to persistent mold in the housing development. And so, sorry, that was a little bit about some of the outcomes, but also some of the partnerships and what both of these communities, some examples of what both of these communities have been able to accomplish through the RCC work. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I know, I mean, it's something that's been a big learning for me personally in the work that we've done with Marin City and in the Canal District, is I think a lot of us think of Marin County as being a very well-resourced area. And these are 2 sort of pockets within Marin County that are really experiencing a lot of risk and not a lot of investment. And so it's been something that we have been able to learn a lot and work closely with these communities to see, like, how can we help them to really sort of get them to where they need to be around flooding risk, around some of the environmental justice concerns that are showing up in Marin City in particular. So great. Now we are going to go to Eileen and wanted to ask you if you could sort of share a little bit about the roadmap for Southeast Los Angeles County region that you developed and sort of talk a little bit about what the significance is of this roadmap and how you plan to use it after the end of the grant term.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting us to be here. So, we actually provided a copy of the roadmap to you guys. So in front of you, you'll be able to see a bound book with the title Building Our Future Together, Pathways to a Healthy and Resilient Cella. So this roadmap, this document is a guide on how to establish programming, plans, and projects that are responsive to and reflective of the changing needs and the health and climate resilience space for the communities in Southeast Los Angeles. So there are 4 priority areas identified to establish programming infrastructure for future projects and to integrate into existing projects as well. So number 1, developing a governance, leadership, and civic involvement strategy. Number 2, identifying infrastructure improvements to support health and sustainability. Number 3, investing in community support through holistic programs. Number 4, creating pathways to share information, gather community feedback, and integrate solutions. And when you talk to us about what is the significance of this document, I think really we have to talk about the process because it was really an iterative process and that is difficult. So what we had to do is we started with this very technical review, right? We looked at all these documents. We had our partner tree people, doing a whole bunch of coding, a lot of quantitative analysis, gathering all these data. And then we workshopped it at our own internal meetings as what we considered ourselves as subject matter experts, kind of seeing what if these themes that we saw were aligning with what we kind of perceived to be in the community. And then importantly, we took this externally to actual community members in Cella, right? And we asked them, does this reflect your lived experience? Does this actually feel like something that resonates with you? And they said no. They said that it was too technical, that they didn't understand it, that it wasn't accessible at all. They just couldn't wrap their heads around it. And that was a really important thing to understand because if you really want to make projects, if you really want to make a guide to make projects and programs and planning in a region, then you want to make sure that it's reflective of the needs of the actual community that it's going to serve, right? So this process, right, going back and forth, really listening to the community members, specifically highlighting and forefronting the needs of the community members is really what's significant about this document. It's iterative. It's really, really in depth. And importantly, the process not only was super in depth, but it also built trust, right? So you go to these community members and you say, we're hearing you, we're listening to you, we're making sure that your voices are being heard. As far as how we're going to move forward with this document, the really big call to action right now is to partner with us. We have this very, very strong connection with each other, with the community, the Cella community. We have this very powerful trust that we've built amongst each other and in this big network. And we really want to further projects using this roadmap as a guide to make them better, more reflective of the community, right? Not only new projects, but to integrate it with existing projects as well, so that every future project that moves forward within the region is going to be really effective and make sure that the community is able to take ownership of these future projects and plans.
Yeah, thank you, Eileen. And I think it really speaks to this conversation we've been having about trust in government. And I think trust in government right now is at an all-time low. And this is a real opportunity to be able to build those relationships. I was sharing, we had a conversation with Gateway Cities COG earlier today as well, and was sharing that we, over a long period of time, have been kind of working with Gateway Cities COG to be able to help them access some of our programs like TCC, AHSC, et cetera. And folks really have not had the capacity to even be able to think about it. And now, as we were talking about it today, we realized they're actually starting to apply for TCC, CRC, and so there's really been a big shift, which I think is incredible through this work. It's as a part of the relationship building and the sort of building up of capacity and grant writing support for cities. communities. All right, so now we're just going to do kind of like round robin of questions. So the first one here is, what do you think has been the most valuable part of the Regional Climate Collaboratives program for your collaborative? And maybe we'll start with Naire. Do you want to go first?
The mic. Maybe I was too close. Okay. Thank you for the question. So one of the most valuable aspects of the program has really been the focus and ability to invest in that sustained resident leadership development, which would not have been possible at the same scale without RCC funding. So rather than relying on one-time outreach or engagement efforts, we were able to convene monthly Consejo meetings and provide ongoing training on planning processes, public policy, and civic engagement. And for a little bit of context, the Consejo is the 20-member governing body of the Canal's resident-led neighborhood planning initiative. So that's for the Canal side of things. And they have shaped and provided direction since they were formed for the initiative in 2023, and will continue to shape the initiative as we move forward with implementation. So having that sustained engagement through a model like the Consejo has really helped residents become informed partners in shaping the decisions that affect their communities. And we've also seen several emerging leaders grow into really influential community advocates through their participation in the Consejo. So the RCC grant really allowed us to provide that consistent support and opportunities for leadership development that is needed for that community leadership growth. So I'll pause there, actually. Thank you. As far as the most valuable part of the RCC, we kind of touched on it a little bit about the trust that was formed, but first of all, the trust that was formed with the community, right? But also the trust that was formed between all of our organizations. So very early on, when we were working on forming this collaborative and formalizing it and creating our governance documents and our vision and our purpose and our values, we said, what is a partner to you? What do you consider a partner? And the definition one of our members came up with was, if you were to call them, they would pick up the phone. And if I were to call any of the RCC partners today, they would pick up the phone. We have created this really strong network of partners that we can collaborate with, that we can work together with, that we can bring our expertise together in order to, bring all these resources and bring these strengths to this region that is so in need and really has a lot of challenges to focus on, right? This cross-sector collaboration at multiple stakeholder levels, right? So we have these organizations that work at the community and resident level. We have our own organization that works at the city and municipal level. We're able to kind of utilize all of these sectors so that we can really, really make the biggest impact that is really possible. And then also this capacity building aspect of the grant was really helpful. We talked earlier with Chair Acefa about how some of our cities had to return money that they received from grants because they just don't have the capacity, they don't have the staff, they don't have the time to implement the projects that they're getting funding for. They don't apply for grants a lot of the time because they just don't have the time and the ability and the expertise and the staff to do so. So the thing is with capacity building is not only, or it's important because if you don't have capacity built into your organization, if your organization isn't able to carry through the projects, then they'll fail. And if your projects fail, you lose trust. And that's not going to work. Then in the future, your projects are going to fail again and again and again. So you really have to make sure that the capacity is built, that groundwork is built, and that background work is done so that you're really setting yourself up for success.
All right. Just leave this one aside. All right. So I think the most valuable part of the RCC program for the San Joaquin Collaborative has been the opportunity to strengthen relationship. And I know that my colleagues here have already touched on the fact that partnerships has been such a key part of this program, but I really want to emphasize how much it has made a difference in terms of building that capacity with local jurisdictions and CBOs working together, which is at least a new like space for the San Joaquin region. What made the program especially valuable was the emphasis on community engagement and equity. We've also seen that investment in community engagement translate into individual leadership. And so I do have an example from our community advisory board. One of our members from the Tracy group, through his experience on the cab, he developed skills and experience in community engagement, climate issues, and local government. He has since gone on to serve as an environmental sustainability commissioner with the city of Tracy. And to me, that's a really meaningful example of how RCC is not only supporting projects, but also building and helping community leaderships. So the RCC funding also gave our partners something that can be difficult to find. And what Eileen was saying, dedicated time and resources to build relationship, and also developing shared strategies as well as testing new approaches. Without that support, it can be very challenging to prioritize this kind of collaborative work alongside with everyone's day-to-day jobs. So ultimately, I think what really distinguished this program is its potential to continue beyond the grant itself. RCC has helped us build shared capacity, stronger relationships, and new ways of working together. So for us, the program isn't just about what we've accomplished during the funding today. It's about creating a stronger foundation for coordinated and sustainable climate solutions in the future.
Thank you all so much. Just like warms my heart to hear. So the next question that I have for all of you is, what was the most important lesson learned? To the earlier point that I was trying to make around like the fact that we don't have necessarily funding for another round of this program, but I think the state has been really leaning into doing capacity building work more and more. And I think those lessons learned are really critical and important. So would love to hear some honest thoughts about what may have been learned through the process.
Yeah, I want to say that one of the most important lessons that we learned is community engagement is really most effective when it creates pathways to real decision-making power. So too often we had community or cities or agencies or organizations want to come and ask us to do outreach in these communities, really to just check a box. And so pushing back against that kind of structure where community members are only asked to provide input after those key decisions were already made or been shaped. And so through the RCC, we were able to create opportunities for residents to engage early. And that was a really important lesson learned to build their understanding of planning and policy processes so they can meaningfully shape and participate in these conversations. So participating as partners rather than simply stakeholders that are being consulted. So we saw through that kind of practice that first, when residents have the knowledge and relationships and opportunities, that's the most important part, I think, opportunities to participate from the beginning, they can meaningfully influence the outcomes. And in the canal, that has included helping shape major planning efforts that are underway now, such as the Southeast Area Specific Plan and other projects that will affect the communities for years to come. And I'll talk a little bit more about our role in the specific plan and what that means for the canal neighborhood a little bit later. But overall, the lesson for us is that the lasting systems change really happens when communities are not only heard, but have that meaningful role in shaping the decisions, investments, and policies that impact their future.
I think the most important lesson learned is to be flexible and to be creative. So after the 2025 LA fires, we actually shifted our scope of work a little bit. It wasn't in our original kind of plan, but we started hosting these emergency preparedness workshops because we were noticing, right, folks were evacuating, and they didn't know exactly how to address these issues, right? Like they were picking up and leaving, but they didn't know what to pack. They didn't know how to take care of their neighbors. They didn't know where to go. And our region wasn't directly affected by the fires, but they're affected by all sorts of climate emergencies that will come up, and we don't know when the next one's going to happen. That's an emergency, right? So because of this recognition that our communities were in need of this programming, we shifted our scope, right? And we made sure that it was reflective of what the actual needs of our community were. And it was really nice that the RCC grant allowed us to do this, because it's cool to follow the step-by-step plan that you said you were going to do, right? But isn't it more important to really make sure that you're addressing the needs of the community that you're serving correctly?
I think the most important lesson that for the San Joaquin Collaborative, what we learned was to make sure that we start with community needs and lived experiences. I don't think I mentioned earlier when I talked about the Community Advisory Board, but we were very intentional about making sure that the CAB members either lived or work in the communities that we were focusing on. And so being able to have these people at the table with us as we, for example, developed our sustainable neighborhood plan that I mentioned, to ensure that the projects that were listed in there is something that they would want to see come to life. And that we want to make sure that these investments would result in tangible benefits for these residents. Because at the end of the day, success isn't really about like completing a project or a planning document. Of course, it's really about whether people actually see and feel the benefit in their communities. And so we've learned that trust definitely takes time when talking to community members. Meaningful community engagement can really go far when we're having these folks at the table. And so creating that ongoing opportunity for people to be heard and follow through with what we hear and being transparent about what we can and can't do has been a really key part in our involvement with residents and community groups. And so with communities, we see that we want to be sure that their input is genuinely influencing decisions, and we're committed to being there beyond a single project. And so we're excited to see with, where we take the collaborative after the RCC grant.
That is a perfect segue into my last question, which is, how has RCC helped prepare your collaborative and partner organizations for future success in accessing funding, conducting planning, and implementing climate projects? We are now at the end of the 3-year grant term and sort of wrapping things up. And so there has been a big question for folks around how to keep this work moving, and what it looks like to implement moving forward. So we'd just love to hear each of you share a bit about that.
Okay. We're keeping it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the work through the RCC has 100% strengthened our ability to pursue funding, planning, and implementation by building those strong partnerships that we talked a bit about earlier, really focusing on that resident leadership and creating a shared vision for thriving, safe, and health communities, both in Marin City, respectively, and then in the Canal. A little bit about what comes next in the Canal, and then I'll share a bit more about Marin City. So that focus on our resident leadership and that partnership building really helped position us as Canal Alliance to join the consultant team for the City of San Rafael's Southeast Area Specific Plan. It's the first comprehensive plan of the area that includes the Canal neighborhood, and this effort really provides us a unique opportunity to address longstanding challenges in the neighborhood, including the close proximity of industrial and residential uses that we have in the neighborhood. Most importantly, it creates that direct pathway for community priorities that have been kind of surfaced and refined with community through this RCC program to, sorry, lost my train of thought. So take those community priorities and then actually have them inform future land use, zoning, and policy decisions, development decisions. Another kind of implementation pathway for us is we were able to join the consultant team for the 620 Canal pedestrian bicycle bridge feasibility study. we were talking about government names for projects and how fun they are, which is really focusing on advancing a longstanding community vision for improved connectivity, resilience, and access to open space in the neighborhood. The proposed bridge would better connect the canal to the rest of the San Rafael city, provide a potential flood evacuation route, and improve access to a future park that's being planned for 620 Canal Street, which is the site of a former boatyard that was recently acquired through a partnership with the city, the Trust for Public Land, Marin County, and Canal Alliance. In Marin City, the relationships and momentum that they were able to develop through the RCC helped secure some of that critical funding for infrastructure needs that I mentioned earlier, but also made possible some really key partnerships. For example, Marin City is working with the County Department of Public Health in an effort to develop and implement a community-wide health assessment to document the high rates of chronic illness that exist in the community and are contributing to the lowest life expectancy rates in all of Marin County. As the planning phase of this works really wraps up, we're already seeing how RCC has created a pipeline of implementation opportunities. A lot of the partners have remained engaged from the beginning, and we're also bringing in new stakeholders that are joining as they see kind of the progress and potential of the work that has been done through the RCC project. And so we're really well positioned to advance these community identified priorities from planning and implementation with some of the examples that I already shared, and compete for future funding opportunities as well that we really are looking forward to help bring these projects to life. Yeah.
So within our individual organizations for the RCC, I would say the capacity built was really wonderful because we all got to hire just wonderful staff that have been able to help us with not only the RCC, but also other projects and just really expand our ability to, help communities in need, right? And then, of course, this program created a strong precedent for collaboration between our organizations and our cities that we're serving, both individually and as a region, right? But also for the cities that we are serving in the RCC, we have 8 of them, and we were able to, with our technical assistance model, provide a concrete deliverable for every single one of these cities. So kind of using the boost model, ILG's boost model, we were able to hire grant writers and consultants based on the unique needs that each of the cities had stated to us. So we did these interviews with them, and each of them got something from these consultants. So one city received a grant application for the extreme heat grant. One city received an application package for the TCC grant. One received an application package for CRC implementation. One receiving application for urban greening grant. One received reimbursement for one of their consultants that led to the completion of a qualified climate action adaptation resilience plan. One city is receiving architectural design plans for a community resilience center that will then lead to, of course, grant applications, and then one city receiving grant management and readiness tools, so capacity building in these cities, of course. And then one city received a community workshop on emergency preparedness conducted by the GCRCC for seniors, with 40 seniors in attendance, all entirely in Spanish to reflect the needs of the community. So when we talk about future success in accessing funding, conducting planning, and implementing climate projects, there's implementation there, there's planning there, there's access to funding in everything that we've done in the RCC, and we're really proud of that. And we're really thankful.
So for the San Joaquin RCC, I think RCC has really helped us prepare in terms of our future success by giving us the capacity, relationships, and structure to move ideas to implementation. And so one example that I want to provide is our exploration of the Transformative Climate Communities TCC grant that's coming up. We're thinking about that for the San Joaquin region. We're looking at how we can build on the momentum and community capacity to develop through the RCC grant and bring community identified projects from our Sustainable Neighborhood Plan to communities across our San Joaquin region. Some of the ideas that we're exploring is including transit access and mobility strategy, urban greening, as well as some green workforce initiatives. What's really been valuable is that these projects aren't being developed in isolation. RCC created a space for partners and community members to come together, identify these priorities, and develop projects that respond directly to local needs. So even if we weren't initially thinking about these projects as part of a larger funding strategy, RCC helped us create the relationships, shared vision, and collaborative infrastructure to move those ideas to the next level. For me, that really demonstrates the longer term value of RCC. The program has helped us build the capacity to not only compete for future funding, to compete for future funding, but also to be more prepared to implement the funding effectively when we do receive it. Ultimately, RCC created a pathway for us to sustain and expand this work while building the community and organizational capacity needed to pursue projects that can improve mobility, environmental resilience, and economic opportunity across the San Joaquin region.
Yay. I just want to say thank you so much, and I'm going to take a little facilitator's privilege just to kind of emphasize some of the points that I heard. I mean, I think this piece around building partnerships is something we talk about all the time at SGC for all of our programs. And a lot of times when we go to more rural communities or, communities that don't have a lot of investment, those are really hard to pull together, and they may not necessarily have those things in place when suddenly some of our great programs come online and they would love to like apply theoretically for a TCC or whatever, but they, need the time to be able to build those relationships, and they need funding to be able to pull together convenings to hear from their community about what those needs are. And so that's really what the Regional Climate Collaboratives Program is created to do. And then I think I kept hearing over and over again this piece around trust and how critical that is to actually be able to move projects. And it's kind of become a cliche now to say that projects move at the speed of trust, everything moves at the speed of trust, but it's true. It can be really hard to be able to access funding when you don't necessarily have the organizations that you can pick up the phone and call and get to move on a grant application and bring funding into a community that has been struggling to access it for a really long time. And so just really want to thank our panelists for really all the incredible wisdom that they shared. And I think we can go to the next slide where we have some discussion questions for council. So here are 3 questions. What capacity and technical assistance needs have you heard from the partners and communities that your agency serves or your organization for our public members? How has your organization or agency utilized SGC's resources and lessons learned to advance technical assistance and capacity building? And how can we best tell the story of capacity building and demonstrate success? I think this is a piece that comes up a lot when we think about capacity building, and sort of came up in the discussion with key staff in preparation for this meeting as well, is like, this is sort of the way that we have been trying to tell the story of capacity building, is like, this is what it actually looks like on the ground. These are the actual outcomes. But would love to hear your thoughts on those pieces. Also, of course, open to questions. So yeah, I will hand it over now to Chair Sefa.
Great. Thank you, Anna. And thank you, Naira, Eileen, and Christina as well. Very, very enlightening. We'll have Justin, perhaps a reminder on the public comments. Then we will move to council discussion, followed by public comments.
Great. So if members of the public would like to comment on this item, please submit a public comment card at the side table. And to make virtual public comment, please visit sgc.ca.gov/meeting-events/council and complete the public comment form. And we do have some public comment registered so far, so we'll be excited to circle back.
Great. So I will open it up to council discussion on the panel presented, but specifically on the 3 bulleted questions Anna laid out. Yes, Daniel. Thanks.
Thank you for your presentations. I find this fascinating and exciting too, so and inspiring. So thank you for sharing your stories. These themes about how we build capacity and offer technical assistance are cutting through all of our programs at Health and Human Services Agency. So I'd be really interested in hearing more about how you were able to leverage resources. I'm impressed that the grant was what, 8.3 million, and you were able to unlock 85 million, like tenfold return on investment. That's huge. And I think, especially in areas that are underserved and perhaps don't have a lot of investment, as you mentioned, from private resources or government resources, and maybe don't have the capacity to compete for federal grants or even state grants. I'm just wondering how we can offer easier on-ramps to capacity building, more technical assistance. And to all the points you've made, like a lot of folks have said, they don't have the grant writing skills. They don't speak government. They don't speak acronyms. They need some folks to come in to help them, and then also embed those people on their staff so they can secure resources from philanthropy, from other partners. And so it's just impressive to see how you've been able to do that. And I just noted a few themes that you've all said about it's a sustained process. It's sustained leadership development. It's trust with community members, help you co-design, offer ideas, and own the work in the way that's empowering to them and feels and seems very authentic because they want this and will be there for the long haul. And then relationship building. Those ingredients seem really critical, but how can we as government make that easier to happen and connect folks to resources? I'm thinking about lots of parts of our state, right? Central Valley in particular. We just did a site visit to Kern County. Folks said the same thing. Like they said, we always get overlooked by everyone. Like, we're not in the Bay Area, we're not in LA. How do we bring those folks here to see the opportunities for investment and development? So I'm curious what offerings you might have for us to think about.
Anyone else? Julia?
Yeah, please.
Thank you for that question. I think flexibility in funding and how you can use funding is really important. I think a lot of times funding, like how you're allowed to use funding can be really prescriptive. For example, there were a lot of restrictions on how we were allowed to do community engagement incentives. So, like items, branded pens, that kind of thing. And I know it sounds really kind of trite, but the thing is that's what gets people to your table. That's what gets community members to talk to you, right? That's what forms trust, oddly enough. But when those things are kind of limited in how you can use those fundings, or food is a really big thing, childcare is a really big thing, right? Like these kind of more wraparound resources that people don't necessarily, or that funders don't necessarily realize are really essential to be eligible costs in order to make sure that these community engagement meetings, this kind of programming is really accessible. That's really important.
I also want to say that the technical assistance element that was provided through this RCC grant was really important. It was a space where we could ask all of the questions. There were no dumb questions, and they had access to a lot of information and resources. And so just having that kind of monthly support, or if there were more hours that were needed, that really, I think, was really critical in helping us pursue also more funding, but also just understand like what is available, what information, what tools exist.
Thank you so much for the question. I think I'll just add, I've now been working on technical assistance and capacity building initiatives at SGC for like 5 to 7 years, I guess now. And I think we started out doing a lot of just technical assistance, like we will offer free TA and someone's available to help you. And that works really well for communities that have the staff and the time to engage. But I think what's really been transformative about this program and has been the way that we've moved on all of our capacity building programs is to provide funding for building staff capacity to really actually have, they can hire someone who could actually dedicate time and energy to, the work that the state would like to see them doing around climate and building the resilience of their communities. So I think that's been really critical. The technical assistance support, I think, has been really important as well. We had technical assistance to kind of like support really like whatever the grant writing needs were, or like helping with different resources. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that those pieces have been really critical. I think also one thing that's kind of unique about RCC is that it funds collaboratives rather than just one-off organizations. And so I think that piece really does help to build the sort of connective tissue between all of these different organizations, which we know builds, adaptive capacity and resilience within communities in and of itself, but can also really help with accessing more funding, and being able to sort of hopefully, the theory of change is that it will sort of be able to build the capacity of the region overall, in a really meaningful way. So one of the things that's tough with capacity building is the program ends after 3 years, but hopefully we're going to see the impacts of this program for the next 10 years, and so that's something that we really need to be thinking about around how we are tracking those metrics and really seeing those outcomes. Because to your point, the return on investment is huge right now. But if we really look over what the impact could be in the next 10 years, it could be 10 times that much, So yeah, anyway, I'll stop there. Julia, did you want to go?
Great.
Yeah, very much appreciated, and just echo everything that everyone has been saying. It's always so good to hear what communities are doing and really the work that you all are putting in. It's very inspiring coming from the transportation perspective, and love to hear the projects around connectivity, transit, active transportation. It's a huge part of regional improvement and just community building at large. And I was curious, really, from all three of you, but especially in San Joaquin, how the Climate Collaborative is informing projects, maybe even outside of RCC. I think to your point, Ina, about what is the legacy of this program and the projects that you all are doing. This is a model. It's considered a model, and we've taken some, from the transportation space in terms of partnership building. But how are you, in working with San Joaquin COG, for example, how is this climate collaborative informing long-range planning decisions beyond this particular program?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that question. Great question, because I didn't get a chance to mention that during the RCC grant term, our collaborative, we received award from the Maddie Grant, which is from the University of Minnesota. And with that grant, we were able to do community engagement around a first ever mobility hub in the San Joaquin region, which is in the city of Tracy. And so our collaborative worked alongside with the project management team, and we were able to help with identifying what type of amenities, designs that the what residents would like to see for this future mobility hub, and excited to share that it's in construction right now. So yeah, that's one key part that I feel like on the COG side, the transportation world, we were able to utilize the resources through our RCC grant to really move that project forward with the engagement that we and the ICBO partners that we had. So we really honed in on the engagement aspect there.
Great. Any other members? Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's just so much to unpack on this. I've spent kind of an equal amount of time working on capacity programs at the Natural Resources Agency and at the Department of Conservation. I think you all have just done an amazing job of showing the benefit of the investment, how that benefit expands out over time and across communities. I think what I always come back to on this, which is I try to think of what isn't being talked about. And one of the main things that, worries me about how we operate our grant programs and kind of our community support programs is that we really rely on very kind of lean running small NGOs in our communities to deliver the services that we're holding up as accomplishments in meetings like this. And when we're developing our grant programs, what we've always heard, we hear about capacity needs not only in the grant writing, which brings the resources in, but we always also hear just we need to support the organizations that we're relying on with the capacity to do the administrative, kind of the boring stuff that soaks up most of the time. And while we, in the state, we made a lot of progress on that, and we did a lot in the Proposition 4 guidance work that we did across many people on this dais, but making sure that indirect costs are respecting the actual work that's there. Because what really kind of shocked and it's painful to hear is that many of our partners, and I worked a lot in the wildfire space, had to make a conscious decision to basically like go into debt to take our grants. And we thought we were kind of heroes for the money we were giving communities for this work. But the ultimate outcome of that, it felt very extractive. And even though we were providing lots of funding for wildfire grants. So I think just, what I've heard in the first question, what I've heard from many, many organizations is just respect the work that it actually takes to do the work that we hold up. Um, and and a lot of that comes in not only from things like indirect costs, but then I really liked your comment about being flexible about the funding uses. It's like it's having administrative and legal teams that are open to amending grant agreements and kind of adjusting and listening to the grantees so that we can address those in the grant agreements and not kind of lock down impossible pathways for our partners to go through to get to their goals. This is all just extremely human to human stuff. So it's like it takes a lot of attention and vigilance to make sure that our systems stay accessible. And I think the ask from me to you all is just, and everyone, it's really helpful to be called out when our programs aren't accessible and when they aren't meeting that mark. And I would be curious, like if you had any a top thing that we need to keep in mind when we're setting up a grant program, like that we could do to make sure it's like not extractive, that it's actually beneficial and it's like easy to access.
I have only good things to say about SGC staff and
Right.
a grant manager, Blanca, who has been nothing but helpful and supportive in helping us navigate, is this possible? And a lot of times, yes, let me check, let's see how we can make this work and how we can expedite this. And so to your comment earlier about this being the most responsive agency, I have to agree. So I don't have anything to share in terms of a pain point.
Let me edit that.
Place here.
We have
Actually, I know
we have a group of leaders from many agencies,
Yeah.
and there's hundreds and hundreds of programs that come up within our agencies as well. So it doesn't have to be an SGC pain point, but or not. All is perfect.
Think about it. I mean, I think you've heard this a billion times. The applications are really complicated, right? We would love a simpler application. It's disheartening to apply and spend all this time and all this effort to apply, right? And then you don't even get the grant,
Yeah.
right? So that's disappointing. But then also, like the flexible funding, like we mentioned, like these wraparound services are really important. I work on a workforce development grant. I remember people were telling me like, I can't apply for a job unless I can feed my family, unless I can pay my rent, right? So in terms of the flexible funding, like being able to fund things beyond just explicitly climate sort of activities, right? Because these things are all interconnected. You can't address climate emergencies unless you can address, like rent stability and those kind of challenges. So, just hitting on the flexibility thing again.
Yeah, I want to definitely echo what Eileen was saying, because flexibility has made a huge difference for our collaborative. And in terms of like flexibility, not only what's like an eligible cost, but if there are changes to the budget, there are changes needed for like contracts, things like that, that definitely made it a lot easier for our team. And another area, at least for like on the administrative side, templates has been very helpful. Whether that's like the quarterly reports, invoicing, things like that, like the templates provided by SGC has been super, super helpful.
There is one thing that's a bit of top of mind, and we started talking about it a little bit earlier, but it's the kind of different definitions of what qualifies as a disadvantaged community or EJ community that different agencies use. I don't know if you want to add a little bit more on what you know, but for Canal Community in Marin City, Cali PA's disadvantaged communities indicator, their mapping tool, doesn't, we're not like classified as a disadvantaged community under that tool. And so we're actually not eligible for TCC funding, whereas for the RCC funding, there was a bit more of like a broader interpretation of what a disadvantaged community would mean. And so I think that's kind of a pain point for us of seeing like what tool they're referencing and how we fall under depending like the metrics that they're using.
Great, Secretary Moss. No, and then Virginia.
I've really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you for spending your time with us. You're already doing the work in community, and coming to our meeting to tell us about it is an honor. So thank you all. I also, in hearing your presentation and hearing where you're most successful is when you're building capacity within your community for your community members to actually participate in the processes in which you're designing for them, which I think is a cornerstone of true community engagement and organizing. So kudos from a former organizer to another. I'm curious, and the leveraging, I think Daniel said this, the leveraging of the funding is extraordinary. And I was wondering if any of the projects had housing funding, if there was anything that showed up. To me, housing is sort of foundational to a lot of resilience, how people are thinking about their stability, as you were talking about, Eileen. So just curious if any of those resources were leveraged for housing projects, because I feel like that continues to be a fundamental need in communities across the state.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. We were able to receive a $250,000 grant from MTC ABAG from their CARES program to do a canal housing plan. And so we're working on that now. We have consultants that are doing different renderings based on community feedback on what, for example, our headquarters, it's a building that we own. What would it look like to tear down our headquarters and build an 11-story affordable housing, mixed-use development, right? And so that's one example of a housing funding project that has been made possible because of this RCC work.
And Chair, if I might, just one other comment about the partnerships with local governments. I do think when you have a collaborative model, it does give you more power to sort of engage a variety of partners and stakeholders. And so even though this program is coming to a close, curious about the durability of some of the local partnerships that you've made with your government stakeholders, because I think, scale, resources, ongoing investment shows up in resilience when you have your local partners investing in it as well, not just those who are being funded by our program.
Yeah, I would say, so I represent the Gateway Cities Council of Governments, which is a governmental entity. But we worked with our cities very, very in depth for this particular RCC grant. And I think being able to connect them not only to the partners within the RCC, but also being able to connect them to partners external to the RCC that we were all aware of, right? You're able to kind of multiply that network because each of our partners knows other partners, right? And then they pull in those partners for different grant applications. So, I gave that long list of grant applications that each of our cities is kind of receiving. And each of those grant applications requires partners. And sometimes it's partners from our RCC, but sometimes it's partners external to our RCC that we knew of because of partners from our RCC. So it's really nice to see like that network being utilized in all sorts of like multiplicative ways.
Yeah, and if I could add on, so I mentioned earlier for our community advisory board, we were very intentional to make sure that we had city staff involvement as well. They were not able to vote or make any decisions, but they were there to really inform residents, I mentioned, on resources and programs that were available. But that also made it really easy for us, since they were at the meetings when we talked about potential grant opportunities, they were already there. And so a lot of projects that we were looking at, of course, they were like, who's the site host, and it tends to always be the city. It's their property, so that really did kind of pave the way for us because we can't say that they didn't know about it. They were there. So I truly agree. Having city staff and other organizations and agencies at the table at the conversation has been a key part for our collaborative.
One more thing, I would be remiss if we did not mention our renter protection program funded by the Los Angeles County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency. This is basically a fund that allows for renter protection fund. This is a renter protection fund that allows for emergency rental assistance for our 27 cities. And we've been able to use our partnerships that we formed from the RCC to really get the word out. I think, once again, this like network, we've talked so many times about the trust and the network that we've created, but we've really gotten a lot of interest in this program from residents and really been able to help residents because we've been able to amplify the message throughout the subregion.
Chair, you might consider moving us to public comment if that's what you're thinking.
We have a couple of
additional comments.
Out of time?
Just running out of time a bit, but
Okay,
I certainly do
quickly.
want to hear thoughts from the council.
Just very quickly, I want to join in Secretary Moss's suggestion that we are honored to hear your stories and your hard work. I'll take a bite real quick at question number 3. How do we spread the word about the work that you and your colleagues and your partners have done? Because anyone who cares about the work of this council has to resolve that this work needs to continue. This round may be over. We don't know where funding might come for something else like this. But this type of work needs to be replicated across the state. So how do we spread the word? And I'm thinking also, Adrian, of the first couple of Catalyst conferences. There was no shortage of philanthropic folks in those rooms, and it felt like we were beginning a conversation there that was just laden with value. And so I would suggest, as we tee things up for the next administration, that we institutionalize at least the memory of this proof of concept, and in the meantime fortify those relationships with philanthropy, because in a transitional period where funding is insecure and federal approaches are regressive, philanthropy may be feeling a responsibility to step up and help some of us. So if you can comment to how do we spread the word of everything you've accomplished?
Great. I'll answer it for them. And the proof is in the pudding, right? I think just listening to you, there's sort of what's common across all of you is partnerships, trust, leadership, capacity. Those are sort of the fundamental community infrastructure that I think, in part because of the program, requires it. You talked about it, how that is really connected. But that sort of building that infrastructure is key for accessing private dollars. I know a couple of our regional collaboratives have already been successful in getting Jobs First grants. 2.1 million for tribal, for the Siskiyou Climate Collaborative. Tribal Energy Climate Collaborative were successful in getting 250,000. So I think the question is, how do you then sustain that? Eileen, what you're talking about, that we support we're the connective tissue between communities and government, right? So that has to continue. And I think that's what you're talking about as well. How do you sustain that? Of course, funding is needed for that ongoing, but thank you, all of you. It is incredibly informative and obviously help inform us that most hopefully sort of future opportunities as well. Thanks, Ina. So now we'll move to public comments.
Great, thank you. So we have 4 comments online, beginning with Corey Hayden. If all those who want to comment on this item could raise their hands within the Zoom room, that would be helpful. And then we will unmute Corey Hayden.
Thank you so much, everyone. My name is Corey Hayden. We are also a regional climate collaborative. We are the one from the map at the very, very top of the state, just before you arrive to Oregon. And this opportunity brought us visibility throughout state agencies that we had not had. There was a grace to our opportunity to be involved. And since having the Strategic Growth Council investment, we have received investments from Cal OSBA's Inclusive Innovation Hub program, and we were the collaborative cited with the Jobs First investment of 3.1 million. We were successful at each phase of those investments, the first being the pilot, the second being Catalyst, and the last being the first round of implementation funding. And the 1.5 or the 1.25 million investment from Strategic Growth Council at that time was the largest ceiling investment we had ever received as an organization. We now hold a CDFA Healthy Soils investment in our organization, in our region. I cannot say enough about the state visits that we have received during this tenure. Deputy Director Fay visited us for 2 major milestone events. Ina visited as well, and the service we received from Marky, Kathleen, and Bianca was phenomenal. Yes, we have not received this kind of service from an agency in our past experience. This was the type of service we received from our philanthropies. So this work of the Strategic Growth Council to introduce technical assistance at the application level, in the project level, and then to actually visit our region will not be forgotten by us, and we are forever changed for it. And thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Josh Simmons.
Good afternoon. Josh Simmons. I'm co-director of the Tribal Energy and Climate Collaborative, or TEC. TEC is a partnership between the Paula tribe and 25 other tribes that TEC serves. The 501c3 nonprofit Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association, whose board is the chairs of its 26 member tribes, and Prosper Sustainably, who is TEC's implementation partner. TEC formed in 2023 upon securing an RCC grant. The RCC grant was instrumental to the formation of TEC and allowing it to build transformative climate and energy capacity for SoCal tribes. Using the RCC grant as its foundation, TEC has secured and preserved over 25 million in funding for tribal energy and climate projects, which includes over a dozen separately funded TEC initiatives such as Regional Energy Network Tribal Engagement, California Jobs First Tech Innovation Ecosystem, CPUC Regulatory Training and Advocacy, and CARB-funded Transportation Planning and Capacity Building. Since 2023, the TEC team has delivered over 4,500 hours of technical assistance in completing over 50 tribal TA requests. TEC has engaged hundreds of agencies and organizations that has hosted over 30 trainings and information exchange events. TEC prides itself in being completely responsive to the needs and requests of our tribes. This is only possible because of the RCC grant's broad and flexible scope. All of TEC's other funding has scope limitations, forcing programming into narrow lanes that may not align with our members' highest priorities. TEC has grants and contracts that can only fund some of its tribes, or only clean mobility, or only economic and workforce development, or only in agencies' regulatory proceedings, and so on. We are so grateful to SGC for providing this flexible funding that allowed TEC to focus on addressing its tribe's priorities rather than only funders' priorities. We are actively pursuing other grants and philanthropic funding that we hope can be as flexible as our expiring RCC grant, allowing TEC to continue focusing on the unique climate energy needs of each of its member tribes. Thank you so much for the extremely valuable funding and support.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Michael McCormick.
Hello, Chair Acefa, Council, staff, and public. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comments on this item. I'm Michael McCormick, President of Farallon Strategies, a small business certified B Corp, working with Amplify Communities and in partnership with Strategic Growth Council to provide technical assistance for the SGC RCC program grantees. It's been our honor to support these fantastic grantees and the communities they serve. This work happening in these collaboratives would not get done, and in some cases, the collaboratives themselves would not exist without this program. The RCC program has resulted in real impact on the ground, as you've heard throughout the meeting today. Capacity building and TA dollars are an efficient way to provide leveraging, small dollar investments with significant returns, and the long-term capacity created is hard to quantify for the value it provides. So that 10x return mentioned earlier on investment should be seen as the starting point of the value of this discussion. The TA team helped with this by leveraging individual technical assistance plans for each site to support their long-term structure, investments, and success. I wanted to share what you all know. Capacity building programs are typically way oversubscribed. They have a huge benefit in supporting impactful outcomes of grant hours, and there's real evidence that this work is needed more now than ever. Thank you for supporting this and other capacity building programs. To that end, the legislation required 2 rounds, and there's only been 1. The success is proof this program works and would hope funds are allocated to make the second round of RCC possible. Lastly, as one of the co-organizers for the Resilient California Summit, I'd like to invite each of the leaders in this room and on the call to engage in this event to support discussions about how to scale this type of work for greater impact in future program cycles. And we'll look forward to working with SGC staff to connect on those points. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Meredith Lee.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair, Council members. My name is Meredith Lee. I'm here on behalf of the Green Lining Institute. We are a climate and economic justice advocacy organization. And I wanted to also start by just thanking the SGC staff for their leadership, also to congratulate the round 1 participants, and also just in general express my appreciation for the conversation today. Greenlining was part of the original team advocating for the creation of RCC because we saw that the communities with the greatest needs often have the least capacity to compete for, to receive, and then manage public investments. We know money often follows paths of least resistance, and without the intentional capacity building, funding flows towards jurisdictions that already have established partnerships, the pipelines of projects, experience navigating state funds, and not necessarily towards those communities with the greatest need. RCC really built those pathways. It helped develop the relationship, the skills, the governance, the project readiness needed to secure those investments like the TCC, CRC, and Prop 4 funding. And not only to secure those, but to actually carry them through. And as you've heard, round 1 demonstrated this model works. And so we recognize that, the state fiscal has significant fiscal constraints right now, but tight budget years are really precisely when capacity building makes the most sense. Round 1 showed that modest investments generated outsized returns, not only in terms of actual dollars being unlocked by the funding, but the lasting civic infrastructure, the relationships, the policy, the coordination, the shared governance that is necessary for these communities to respond not just to today's challenges, but tomorrow and future and additional challenges. Similar to Michael, we really urge the council to look for opportunities to preserve RCC through continue to document the successes and also the opportunity to integrate this model into future funding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now over, and I'll pass it back to Chair Acefa.
Great. Thank you to those who provided public comments. Before we move to the next item, I want to say once again, thank you for the panelists for that wonderful presentation. Thank you. Now we move to item 6, which is an informational item and an update on the Health in All Policies program. I'd like to invite Fabian Perez Gove, Program Manager for Health and Equity Program, to present this item. I want to remind council members we're about half an hour behind. So if anyone is catching a flight later.
Thank you, Chair Acefa. My item's actually short, so I hopefully will make up some time. So again, I'm Fabian. I manage the Health and Equity Program at the Strategic Growth Council. Have the pleasure of speaking to you all today to provide a short update on HIAP activities in 2026 and what's to come later this year. I keep emphasizing short because today is a teaser for December. So let's go to the next slide. So before I start, I want to provide a brief update on or background on what HIAP is. So it brings together over 20 different departments and agencies across the state to really focus on better health outcomes. So really incorporating health into everything that we do, which in 2010, when we started, was groundbreaking. We did a great job where now it just makes sense. So that's kind of why I'm speaking to you all today. So community needs and priorities have stayed at the center of our practice here in our governmental work with HIAP. That's really what the emphasis of what HIAP is and what the approach is all about. In doing so, we end up making government more cost effective because we're coordinating across all of our agencies instead of recreating the wheel and creating new programs in one state agency that maybe another state agency already has. So again, yes. Again, it's a proven model for efficient, equitable, and collaborative governance. And again, what I really want to emphasize is that HIAP, we've been around for 16 years, so we're now at a point where we are the perfect example of what systems change looks like in government, because we have really changed how government approach and public health approaches their work in California. And most importantly, before we go to the next slide, our impact has been recognized by the World Health Organization, the Pan American Health Organization, really many other global organizations as well see California's HIAP model as the basis of what other places should be doing. Next slide. Some of our major accomplishments over the last 16 years, we've embedded over $4 billion in state grants, which have helped us reach over 400 different communities in the state. We helped the California Department of Public Health establish the Healthy Communities Data and Indicators Project, which helps increase access to local data. And we worked with the Department of Food and Agriculture to help establish the Farm to Fork and Farm to School programs, which help increase food procurement standards across the state. What kind of drives our work is we really want to help improve state contracting and funding processes. We want to increase access to the quality of data on public health and climate impacts to our residents. And lastly, increase interagency collaboration and partnership. Next slide. So the main reason I am here today is I'm actually very, very excited to share that we have officially published and launched our HIAP grant and contract evaluation tool, which was actually a council priority that you all set for us a few years ago. So this is under Council Priority 2, advancing capacity building as a key equity strategy. So we developed this tool in partnership with the HIAP grant and contract work group, which is made up of many different state staff from different agencies and our contractor, the Equity and Wellness Institute, and we launched this in June 2026. But yesterday we did our official launch on our social media push. So we're really going to try to get this resource out to all state staff, and we're very excited about it. And you can see a small portion here since I don't want to show you the whole website, but you can look it up. It's in the staff report that we drafted for you all. But we really broke down the approach to providing funding opportunities into 6 different sections, which all provide resources to state staff to really streamline this process. Next slide. So again, the tool is meant to be a living document that will evolve as state processes evolve with us, right? So I think what's really helpful for our team and I is that we're really inviting state staff and partners to share feedback with us. We luckily have access to edit the tool, so it's pretty quick on our end to kind of go through that process. So the point of this tool is to support state staff in streamlining the grant and contract process. We want to increase access to tribes, communities, small businesses, and all potential applicants. And again, it's a practical guide. So if you're a state staff member that works with grants and other funding opportunities, this tool is meant to be there to help you identify what are the things that we can immediately change. If I came up here and said, it takes too long for us to pay our contractors, I can't fix that in a week. But what I can fix, which the tool helps, is my contracts team gives me 5 days to approve and review an invoice that I get from a contractor. I made it my practice to do that within 2 days. So really, we're kind of expediting that. So making small changes where we can, but that's kind of what the tool is built as, is are we asking the right questions? And most importantly, what you heard from the panel is we want to keep that kind of work going. So are we making it easy to work with us? That's what this tool is meant for. To briefly talk about how we developed it, again, it's been a few years in the making. We worked with the HIAP Grants and Contracts Work Group to really develop this over the last few years. Then we refined it with our contractor, the Equity and Wellness Institute. And then thankfully to my small but very mighty team, we converted it to a website to make it more accessible because the final product that we got was a little too complicated. And we were like, we want people to use this. So we created it into a website. And then we also received wonderful help from many of our HIAP partners. They helped us focus test this tool to make sure it's refined and does what we intend for it to do. Next slide. Additionally, I want to highlight our partnership with the Office of Health Equity at the California Department of Public Health, which I will refer to as OHE going forward. None of this would have been possible without them. So we helped establish the HIAP Steering Committee, which is a committee that I developed so that we can share decision-making power and processes between SGC and OHE's leadership. This is also meant to be a place where we can get high-level direction and ensure that we're aligning with institutional goals as we do our HIAP priorities. As a reminder, SGC also holds a seat, which I sit on for the OHE Advisory Committee. So again, with the wonderful partnership with the Executive Director, Stephanie Weldon at OHE, we now have like a standing item during their quarterly meetings where I'm able to discuss HIAP updates, lead a discussion and get feedback from all my fellow advisory committee members and members of the public that attend that meeting. So again, my emphasis with my program has been trying to get as much input as possible to make sure it's a well-rounded approach to supporting all Californians. Lastly, our HIAP work group structure. So we have two work groups. One focuses on data and access, that's run by the OHE office, and then the grant and contract work group, which is run by my team and I at SGC, or the HEP team at SGC. And so again, the partnership is just super, super helpful in terms of making sure our work moves forward in 2027. Next slide. Okay, so now what's to come in 2026? So we have a very great meeting happening next Wednesday. Stephanie Weldon will be our main guest presenter from OHE, who will be leading a discussion on tribal consultation and best practices. And then in December, which is again why I'm teasing what's to come, we are going to be releasing our new HIAP action plans. Our previous ones were from 2022 to 2025, and we are now about to release our 2027 to 2030 action plans, which will guide our work. So again, the partnership with OHE is really crucial to kind of getting this work off the ground. Our work groups are currently helping refine their problem statements and goals, mission and vision to help kind of update what we want next year to look like for HIAP and what the next few years will look like. We're also supporting the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation's General Plan Guidelines update and with the CDPH Community Engagement Plan. So again, the action plans are currently under development. We're almost done. But we'll release them during the December council meeting. So either myself will be back or Faye will be back to talk to you all to release these updates for our action plan. So again, I promised short and sweet, and I hope I delivered, but thank you again for your time today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And again, look forward to speaking to you all soon. That concludes the end of my presentation, and I would like to turn it over to Chair Asefa.
Great. Thanks, Fabian, for that short and very succinct presentation. We look forward to the more robust discussion in December. With that, Justin, could you give us a reminder? Then
Yes.
We'll have a public comment reminder, then we'll have council discussion.
So if members of the public would like to comment on this item, please submit a public comment card at the side table. And to make virtual public comment, please visit sgc.ca.gov/meetings-events/council and complete the public comment form there. Apologies. I'll pass it back to you in case there are comments from the council.
Open it up for council discussions. By the way, I don't see Nicole on the screen at all. If she puts her hands out, anybody's monitoring?
Just checking, is Nicole Capret's hand raised by any chance?
Daniel, until then.
No, sorry, I had my mute button on.
Okay, great.
Just a brief comment from Health and Human Services Agency. I just want to say thank you for the partnership. I think HIAP has been a tremendous vehicle for us to learn and spread the word of the SGC is going to work in so many ways, and vice versa, bringing in a health lens to the work that SGC is doing. So it's been a really fantastic partnership over 16 years, and I'm looking forward. Thank you for the preview for December. Looking forward to seeing the action plan, and I just wanted to just take a note to say thank you. We're learning a ton. We're sharing best practices around tribal engagement, climate resiliency, transportation, housing. So it's just been a robust way for us to stay engaged with SGC besides the work we do here in the dais. Thank you.
Else? Great. Thanks, Fabian. We will move to the next item.
Well, there is public comment.
Oh, sorry.
We have
Not
just
in
one public comment from Laura O'Connor online. Laura, if you could raise your hand and then unmute when prompted.
Hello, thank you so much, Laura O'Connor. Thank you, Chair Suffa, and all the folks giving these excellent and inspiring reports. I wanted to just address one thing that was just brought up. Was I was honored to be part of this delegation with Philanthropy California in April that came and met with CNRA and SGC and lots of other folks in the legislature. And there was some really strong partnerships that began forming that had started the year before to address how do we work together across these sectors. So that's a hopeful note. But actually, I wanted to thank you for the panel so far. And I want to pile on the love for SGC and the agencies that go into, all of the agencies that go into this, specifically thanking Ina and Ms. Herrera for the report outs. I lived in Marin County and worked there for 23 years before moving down to Southern California. So I have some really direct experience of working on the ground there. And Ina, I wanted to thank you for circling back about EJ factors. I want to dig a little deeper that the racism and the racial injustice, both geographically and economically, does determine these factors, as we know. And just the elephant in the room and SGC has done such a great, amazing job along with some of the agencies that make that up. And I'll, shout out the work of CNRA with tribes. But I won't go into the statistics because I know we want to end this meeting sooner. But basically, the Canal District is heavily Latino, and the Marin City District is heavily Black, and that contributes to the lack of investment in those. So it's wonderful to have these communities working together and be supported by you all with all these racial equity plans that SGC has put into play across the last few years, which them, REAP, C-Corps, and the Resource Hub. But really, kudos to everyone on this, and I hope we see a lot more of this, and this strong message gets across to the next administration. This has to continue, go deeper, and be heavily funded. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you. And that concludes public comment for this item.
Great. Thank you for that comment. Move to item 7, which is an action item for the approval of the factory-built housing program round 3 pilot grant recommendations. Actually excited to hear about this, one of our priorities, and also realize that Secretary Moss, this is your first SGC council meeting as the new Secretary of the Housing and Homelessness. So this should come at a good time. We actually scheduled it for that purpose, right? No, but I'll ask. I look forward to hearing about this one. But I will invite Sean Kennedy, Deputy Director of Energy Investments, and Jin Jiang, Program Lead for Factory Built Housing Program, to present the recommendations.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Is this working? We good? Great. I am very excited to be here. This has been quite a journey to get us to this point. 2.5 years now since this program was initially conceived by this council. So just wanted to start by expressing my immense gratitude to the council for your ongoing support from the inception of the program through the redesign of the program, and then to today where we are finally recommending awards for your consideration. Also wanted to thank SGC staff, Jin Zhang, who's the program manager for the Factory Built Housing Program, and Alex Kroll that you saw briefly earlier, who's now on her way to Fiji. An incredibly small team, but has done a lot of the great work to make this possible, along with many interagency partners. So thank you all. Just wanted to quickly start by highlighting the fact and a reminder that this is a pilot program. But as a pilot program, the objective is not just to fund one-off projects. The whole objective of a program, of this pilot program, is to learn from those investments and to ensure that the work that we're investing in is moving forward. And we saw through our applications that many of those individual applications showed incredibly strong value and potential. The greatest benefit really comes from how these recommended projects work together as a cohesive portfolio. And together, the portfolio of projects allows a range of models, allows us to test actually a range of models and partnership structures across diverse geographic contexts from one end of the state to the other, generating insights that no single project alone would be able to provide, while also maximizing statewide benefit on an extremely limited budget. So ensuring that this portfolio meets this goal requires support beyond the funding that we're providing today or recommending today. Through a community of practice in partnership with the Turner Center, grantees will learn from each other and share lessons for the benefit of the sector more broadly, including many of the applicants that we are unable to fund due to current budget constraints. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce Jin Zhang, the Factory Built Program Housing Manager, to walk through the recommendations. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Could everybody hear me okay? Great. So we are here to discuss the third round of this program and the first following a major program redesign, and also the first in which we are very excitedly making recommendations for awards. This round of the Factory Built Housing Program is designed to support regional strategies that use factory built housing as a tool to expand the supply of affordable housing across California, and in doing so, reduce greenhouse gas emissions to meet both local goals and statewide priorities for climate and housing. Next slide, please. The program is funded by an allocation from the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program, which is a California Climate Investments or CCI program. And both CARB CCI program and the various SGC resolutions that created the Factory Built Housing Program inform its main program objectives here on the screen. Next slide, please. Round 3 made a total of $10 million available across 2 grant types, catalyst grants and planning grants. The main distinction here being different levels of readiness and partnership that lead applicants have in implementing their proposals. With planning dollars going to more robust collaborations that have completed a lot of groundwork already, and catalyst dollars going to organizations earlier in their capacity building and readiness preparedness journeys. And the next slide, please. The round 3 guidelines were adopted after extensive public comment and previous round learnings, and the applications officially kicked off through a NOFA release in February, which was later amended in May, with strong statewide interest resulting in 65 submissions for both grant types. Program staff provided comprehensive technical assistance in the spring, including but not limited to weekly office hours, one-on-one conversations, and various supplemental materials, ensuring both equitable access and high-quality proposals. And so, in the next slide, please. So this is kind of a slide that discusses a little bit about the application review. As previously mentioned, round 3 received 65 total applications, all of whom went through an initial 2 rounds of threshold and completeness screening by staff. 55 of those applications went to interagency review, comprised of a panel of reviewers with diverse expertise from CARB, HCD, LCI, and SGC for competitive scoring, which then completed the process for the catalyst applicants. Top scoring planning applicants, those who scored 80 or above during review, were then invited to interview with staff as their final step in the review process. And process safeguards for this process included reviewer orientations, scoring guides, collective communication channels for reviewers, conflict of interest forms, and as-needed debriefs for any larger potential discrepancies. So the next slide will show a geographic representation of where we saw applications come in. The map on the right is a breakdown of the key California regions as defined by LCI's climate change assessment team. And on the left is the breakdown of how our applicants map to this breakdown. So you see some level of engagement and application from every region. I do want to note that geographic considerations were not necessarily included in the scoring criteria during review. Next slide, please. And so ultimately, staff would like to recommend 10 applications to award in round 3, 5 planning applications and 5 catalyst applications, with 3 of those planning applications as partial awards. And next slide. In providing these recommendations for award, staff began by reviewing the full scoring results. However, several top-ranked proposals were separated by only marginal score differences, which meant that scores alone did not provide a clear and sufficient basis for selecting a portfolio. Following the guidelines, staff applied a comprehensive portfolio approach to ensure the award slate maximizes statewide benefit rather than relying solely on rank order scores. In applying the portfolio approach, staff evaluated geographic distribution, diversity of technical strategies, regional capacity building potential, and overall alignment with program objectives. The final award slate reflects both the competitive scoring and the balancing considerations required under this portfolio approach, resulting in a more equitable and strategically aligned set of investments. Next slide, please. This is ultimately the geographic footprint of recommended projects. We have 7 of the 9 regions represented with a diversity of communities served. Next slide, please. So now we are going to move into discussing the recommended awardees and highlight just a few projects per grant type. All recommended planning grant awardees demonstrated really strong levels of project feasibility, regional coordination, and housing innovation. The scores were incredibly close, which reflects the quality of overall submissions and the competitiveness of this round's grant dollars. Next slide, please. Scoring highest is the Bay Area Middle Housing Accelerator, led by Stop Waste, a public agency governed by Alameda County Waste Management Authority, Alameda County Source Reduction and Recycling Board, and Energy Council. They are joined by longtime collaborators, Alameda County Housing and Community Development, the Housing Accelerator Fund, the Bay Area Housing Finance Authority, Build It Green, and the City and County of San Francisco to target factory-built housing development sites and overcome regulatory hurdles, design an industrialized construction financial product for middle housing, and promote greater supply chain integration for the Bay Area's 9 counties. Next is Built Different, led by Mutual Housing California, a nonprofit developer that aims to lay the groundwork for increased factory-built housing activity throughout the greater Sacramento Valley region. Joined by Sacramento Area Council of Governments, as well as other partners, they will work within the City of Sacramento, the County of Sacramento, the County of Yuba, and the cities of Elk Grove, Vacaville, and Stockton to deliver more than 660 affordable homes, serving households earning between 30 to 80% of the area's median income. This grant enables the coalition to produce a suite of tools, including standardized factory-built housing plans, permitting roadmaps, a zero-net energy design toolkit, and additional innovative design methods that will all be made publicly available and applicable across the region. Other recommendations include a project led by the City of Anaheim trying to address the lack of workforce housing and severe commuting and overcrowding issue due to concentrated employment by developing a workforce-centric modular infill strategy. The Bay Area Council Foundation's efforts to design and test standardized permitting pathways, feasibility tools, and delivery models within real regulatory contexts. And Tahoe Prosperity Center's investments in specialized mass timber solutions for wildfire-prone, high-cost mountain regions. And those are the recommended planning awardees. And moving on to recommended Catalyst grant awardees. Catalyst awards emphasize capacity building, early-stage innovation, and equity impacts. And as such, rural, tribal, wildfire-impacted regions were more strongly represented in this slate of recommendations. Highlighting one of them, innovating new factory-built homes for the Redwood region is led by Building Lives by Building Structure. Next slide, please. Thank you. A tribal nonprofit organization serving the Hoopa Valley Tribe and the Greater Klamath Trinity region by providing affordable homes and training to local residents in the construction trades. BLBS is using these grant funds to advance hempcrete modular innovation with tribal leadership and at a broader level support resilient materials production and supply chain development in their region. Next slide, please. The Forge initiative is aiming to build foundational infrastructure in the San Joaquin Valley, a region with historically low factory-built housing capacity and high amounts of need. Forge will deepen and expand the region's shared understanding of the factory-built housing landscape while building a shared evidence base. Developing pre-implementation frameworks and piloting energy efficiency tools to advance coordinated factory-built housing deployment in the area. Next slide, please. Additional award recommendations include a project led by City Lab UCLA, focused on missing middle modular prototypes and zoning solutions in LA County, a project led by Integrity Custom Built that aims to develop a wildfire recovery framework using modular homes centering the Pacific Palisades and Altadena areas post-Palisades and Eaton fires, and Dream Build Riverside, led by Riverside County Department of Housing and Workforce Solutions, aiming to develop a regionally coordinated model for advancing factory-built housing that specifically respond to acute housing, infrastructure, and capacity constraints faced by rural farm workers in the eastern Coachella Valley. Next slide, please. So while Round 3 issued $10 million available for funding, the program received a total of $110 million requested, around an oversubscription rate of 11. There were many strong proposals that may be excellent candidates for future rounds, cross-agency partnerships, or external grants, and staff is actively working to identify alternative funding pathways for these unawarded applicants. And we'll be working with the Turner Center to provide additional TA support and specifically build a larger community of practice where hybrid convenings, grantee project-based rapid research briefs, and learnings from unawarded applicants can generate replicable knowledge across the state. In conclusion, next slide. Our final slide, staff recommends the council approve the aforementioned 10 awardees as a strategically balanced, high-impact statewide portfolio for the factory-built housing Round 3 pilot program. Back to you, Sean.
Thank you, Jen. Justine?
Excellent. So if members of the public would like to comment on this item, please submit a comment card at the side table. And to make comment virtually, please visit sgc.ca.gov/meeting-events/council and complete the public comment form. And I'll note to this point, we have 6 in-person commenters and 10 online. So we may get more by the time we reach public comment period.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great presentation. I do think that as we contemplate addressing our housing needs across the state of California, factory-built housing is a critical component of that work. So I'm really encouraged by the evolution of this work, the range and diversity that you all have contemplated in your recommendations. So I really appreciate staff's work on this. It definitely feels like a comprehensive list. I wondered how for the projects that did not receive a full award of what they requested, how you determine what was substantial enough to make an impact relative to the amount that you all were recommending. Because certainly the Catalyst grants in particular are getting folks started in their process, and just wondered how you arrived at that amount.
There were certain funding constraints, first and foremost. And I think something that staff was considering during that selection process was either one full award or 3 partial awards. And when we were evaluating the overall portfolio and considering what were the gaps from both a project type perspective, geography perspective, lead applicant perspective, the 3 partial awards for us felt that it was going to create significant amounts of more equity impacts based off of what we outlined in our program objectives. Specifically, how we are going to be rescoping their scopes of work is going to be discussed after awards, and it's going to be between staff and these lead applicants. We're definitely going to be hearing from them what is the most important to them, and we'll be kind of collaborating together to figure out what's feasible within that limited amount.
Thank you. And just to follow up through the chair, I appreciate that because I do think, given the oversubscription of those interested in this work, as evidenced by public comment and the discussion we'll hear, having the follow-up that you outlined in the presentation, I think will be really important. How do we learn from these pilots? How do we understand the folks who were not awarded? I know the staff have received an appeal. I think that that's also going to be important for us to just contemplate as we continue to administer this program. So really appreciate that you all have done the thinking about that and that that is a part of the process. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? I'll go. I think what you talked about, Sean, in the beginning, which is because this is a pilot, we wanted to look at sort of a diverse options. What can you speak a little bit in the criteria which really encouraged that in terms of how the criteria was developed? In one hand, it's region was not considered as part of the selection, which makes sense in this case, I think. But I just wanted to understand how the criteria specifically sort of encouraged multiple different types of submittals.
Sure, thank you. I think this in large part goes back to the market research that we conducted following the first 2 rounds to really better understand the landscape across the state. And through that work, we came to understand that factory-built housing can do many things in many contexts. It can address a range of housing needs, but through a variety of approaches that come with a variety of co-benefits. So we've seen things across the state from work in the Tahoe Truckee area, for example, where there's a connection there between forest health, fire recovery, and housing in ways that you're not seeing in Southern California, for example, where there's an immediate need for fire recovery efforts there. We're seeing farm worker housing needs and other sorts of connections there as well. And so in designing the program, we were deliberate in including, actually building on one of the comments earlier, a really long list of eligible activities that could be included in your proposal to account for the specific needs of the regions in which folks were submitting those proposals. So there's considerable flexibility built into the program design that then manifested as, folks suggesting all sorts of ways that they could tackle this problem. There's, projects that are, I think, focus more heavily on the research and development side of things. Yeah. Others focus heavily on community outreach and engagement. Others looking at workforce development, strong projects looking at how do we educate contractors and planners and other folks who are sometimes not aware of this work or not as supportive as they may otherwise be. New financing strategies that are needed in some cases. And so having that flexibility built into the design of the program and the eligibility criteria, I think, is what produced that diversity that we saw.
Great. Just quick follow-up question. I know we're running out of time. I just wanted to understand, remember the first phases, we really didn't get that many applicants quickly. What was the difference between phase 2 and 3 that really generated that shift?
So this program initially came about through a relationship with the U.S. Department of Energy's Loan Programs Office, in which we were able to provide a small amount of SGC funding, around $3 million, that would have unlocked around $70 million in federal funding in order to facilitate the funding of a manufacturing facility to produce housing. And that was the sole focus of that program. How can we build $100 million factories in California? What we saw through that, one, that that loan programs office process itself was complicated. There are no $100 million factories in California, so we're looking for something that does not exist. And we had not cracked the nut when it came to who they were going to sell their products to. So for any business, if you can't demonstrate that you have a customer, it's hard for you to get financing. And that was what we saw here. Even though we have the housing crisis in California that we have, the housing demand was not organized in a way that finance could see, and that they were then willing to hand over a $70 million loan knowing they were going to get their repayment on that. And so we redesigned the program to focus not only on supply, but also the demand side. Where is that housing need? What types of housing are needed, and where is that happening? And how can we then bring coalitions of folks together that is local housing finance authorities and the land use folks and the developers and the general contractors to organize that side so that we have a stable demand pipeline for factories to operate on a more sustained basis, which is something, frankly, we have not seen in California to date. We see factory-built housing manufacturers come and then they go because they don't have a stable demand pipeline. Yeah. So that was the whole shift away from just giant factories to a more holistic ecosystem approach that's bringing together these regional coalitions, addressing multiple barriers together.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, it occurs to me that if I may,
no, please.
That's why we had so many proposers this time around. I want to credit our staff and also Secretary Moss for her leadership in this, because staff looked at the results of the first couple of rounds, spoke with the community, particularly in the private sector. And what we see here is tweaked guidelines for round 3 that are really market-based. And we have here, universities proposing, we have private developers proposing, we have finance involved, we have community-based organizations involved, we have different participants in the value chain, all the way from materials and timber. We're in a position here, particularly with a portfolio approach, and we are looking at proposers from different parts of the state to develop in this infant industry various communities of practice around different areas of the value chain, different parts of the state. And what I think we're going to get out of this ultimately is the opportunity to fill different pieces of the value chain so that the industry has a chance to develop. I think it's a Keynesian approach, actually. It's a remarkable approach to prime the pump and stimulate private investment so that we can get more homes built that are quality, faster, and just speaking from the Pasadena area, it couldn't come sooner.
Seriously, I mean, that's credit to the team. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll go to public comments and then come back. I'm sorry, Sarah. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to come in with a really quick thank you and acknowledgement of all of staff's work to get to this point. As Sean, as you mentioned in your opening comments, it really has been quite a journey. And I think that we have gotten to a place that we can all be really proud to be able to advance these awards that will make a really concrete difference throughout many regions of the state for both housing and also all of the climate benefits that come with creating housing closer to where people live and reduced VMT and all of the greenhouse gas emission benefits of that. So I just wanted to say thank you to you all and to your efforts, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these projects get implemented.
Justin.
All right. So moving into public comment, we have 6 commenters here in the room with us, if they've been able to stay. So if the first 3 could please line up at the podium, that would be Suzanne Davenport, Craig Edelman, and Emily Alvarez. And then you can begin in that same order. So Suzanne first, and you'll each have 2 minutes. Is this mic on? Can we confirm? There's a switch. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Suzanne Davenport. I'm the CEO of Rural Community Assistance Corporation. We are so grateful for the opportunity to leverage our resources through SGC Catalyst grant funds. We are partnered with Riverside County and Lift to Rise. We have been wanting to do Dream Build for about 5 years and just never had the resources put together and the opportunity. Unfortunately, it was the impetus is actually the federal funding, the regression of that funding, specifically the Rural Housing Service. We serve rural and indigenous communities across the 13 western states. Our office is here in West Sacramento. We look forward to the collective impact. We look forward to learning from the larger cohort as well as from our partnership. Just very grateful for the foresight of staff and this council in recognizing the inequities that often farm worker families, indigenous and rural communities, and individuals when they embark on the homeownership trajectory, it's often a very discouraging road. And we look forward to being part of a solution for the greater parts of Riverside County, as well as the rest of the state. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Craig Edelman. I'm the CEO of Mutual Housing California. Grateful to be with you today. We are not a planning firm. We're housers, and I want to express my gratitude to the council for its vision in this program, to the staff for its adaptability in moving the needle, and considering our proposal, Built Different. We agree housing is too expensive and too slow to market, and change is needed. Mutual is in a unique position to lead. We've already committed to a factory build approach across the next 6 developments in our pipeline. This is a scaled strategy that leads to building capacity, not just one project at a time, but holistically and regionally. This is going to result in reduced costs and faster delivery. Your grant leverages this commitment we've already made substantially and across the entire region to research, stakeholder engagement, and broader capacity building in the Sacramento Valley. We've assembled an incredible team that has terrific collaborative strength, but grounded in practice and in development and delivering housing itself. Our partners have expertise. We are partnered with SACOG, our regional COG, as well as other critical partners. Regional scale is critical to moving the needle on this work, and we embrace that approach that the program has laid out. So I want to thank you for the vision and the partnership. We look forward to continued partnering with you and to acknowledge we can embrace this change. We're proud to build different. Thanks.
Thank you, Craig Edelman. We'll hear next from Emily Alvarez.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Alvarez, and I'm a program manager with Stop Waste. I'm speaking today on behalf of the proposed grant award for the Bay Area Middle Housing Accelerator. We are really excited about this proposal and the great network of partners that we've been working with for years in the Bay Area. California is facing an interconnected housing and climate crisis. To solve it, we must change how we build. The Bay Area Middle Housing Accelerator offers a ready-to-go model and unlocks factory-built housing on small infill lots. This targets the critical missing middle housing sector that our communities desperately need. What sets this project apart is its integrated regional ecosystem. It does not just build homes, but addresses the fragmented bottlenecks in financing, permitting, manufacturing, and supply chains that often stall good projects. This project builds directly on programs and partnerships that were formed through the Bay Area Construction Innovation Cluster, which previously secured a federal USEDA Build Back Better grant. By funding this accelerator, the Council will help scale successful local pilots into a coordinated system. This directly aligns with the Strategic Growth Council's core mission. It reduces construction waste, lowers greenhouse gas emissions, and creates localized green jobs and workforce training programs. It also advances a circular economy by mapping out regional low-carbon supply chains. This project aims to prove that we can meet our aggressive state housing goals while simultaneously advancing climate resilience and equity. I urge the Council to approve the staff recommended awards and invest in the future of industrialized construction for California. We thank you for your time and for your leadership and consideration of these grants.
Thank you. I'll read the next three speakers. So Hannah Shuden, Henry Dotson, and Chris Bridge-Ford. If you could please come to the dais and speak in that order.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Hannah Chudin, and I work for the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, or SACOG, on the planning and programming team, and I serve as the grant coordinator for our Green Means Go program. On behalf of SACOG, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Strategic Growth Council for this factory-built housing planning grant award. Green Means Go is one of SACOG's primary programs for implementing our blueprint, otherwise known as the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategies, or MTPSES. And this program helps our region overcome the infrastructure, planning, and financing barriers that can prevent infill housing from moving forward. To date, SACOG has administered more than $60 million through Green Means Go for planning and capital investments that pair infrastructure funding with policy support and technical assistance. This award allows us to expand that work through Built Different, an innovative partnership led by Mutual Housing California. And together, we will use this pipeline of 6 affordable factory-built housing projects to identify practical ways to reduce construction costs, shorten development timelines, and make project delivery more predictable. Most importantly, the lessons we learn throughout this process will not remain within the individual projects. The partnership will produce publicly available plans, permitting guidance, zero net energy tools, and financing resources that can help communities across our region deliver more high quality, affordable housing. Thank you for investing in this partnership in a model that can benefit not just the Sacramento region, but communities across California. Thank you again.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Henry Dotson.
Good afternoon. My name is Henry Dotson, and I'm the Vice President of DINA Revitalization Network. And DINA Revitalization Network was founded in response to the Eaton fire. So we call it DRN, but DRN's mission is to help rebuild and revitalize the historically underserved communities in Altadena and Pasadena and others impacted by the fire. We do so through homeowner education, curating and maintaining a network of vetted builders, and connecting with the informed homeowner group. We educate the homeowners, and we navigate them through the rebuilding process. And we help them towards this safe and stable and resilient housing. So our alignment with this program, we think that our mission aligns very well, and it aligns closely with the integrated custom built factory grant. And together with this partnership, I think that we will be able to connect this vital type of housing with innovative approaches and with the community needs. So we're going to be able to help this distressed and undercapitalized community and help them to understand what their options are and to navigate this rebuilding process, which for many is very confusing. Over 60% of the population is over 70 years old. So I strongly encourage you to approve this item, and we see it as a win-win opportunity with a high yield return on this investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Chris Bridge-Ford.
Good afternoon. I'm Christopher Bridgeford. I'm the founder and CEO of Integrity Custom Built in Altadena. I've spent 45 years in construction, 20 years in modular housing. I'm here in support of item 7 to thank the staff for recommending our Catalyst grant. We want this grant is simple after the Eaton and Palisades fire. Thousands of families want to come home, but the path to rebuilding is complicated, it's slow, and it's confusing. Right now, it doesn't work. The grant builds the groundwork. Over the next 24 months, we would deliver pre-approved fire resilient plans on the pre-approved plan list in LA County and the city of Los Angeles. We currently are developing 24 plans with 12 different floor plans with different elevations. So people have choices, not just catalog, you know. The work is already starting. We have 4 general contractors that are interested in participating in our program, and we offer them training that they've never done modular housing before. So we want them to be able to take what we're putting together and use it as a business model for them to offer modular housing as a product in Altadena and other areas, Palisades, anywhere in California, this product works. And I would often also ask, currently, this program is only available for HCD approved homes, which are factory built modular homes. There's another more affordable product that these modular manufacturers have introduced called a cross mod. It's a HUD built home, which to all of us in the past, that meant mobile home. But today, it's a factory built home that's built to the same quality and standards as the modular houses are. And I would recommend in the future to open that up. We can deliver a cross mod product, and we are offering that product at our sales center in Altadena also to the families that don't have enough money to rebuild. And we can deliver that product for about 30% less. And I apologize, I'm out of time. I got on my soapbox. And I just want to say thank you all for recommending us for this grant. And we're going to use it for education, pre-approved plans, and getting the word out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move now to our online commenters. If you are online and can hear me, please raise your hand either within the Zoom app or by phone. It's *9. That way we can find you and unmute you when it's time. Our first commenter is going to be Vamsi Kumar Kotla. And you should get a notification that you can unmute.
Good afternoon, the council. Really appreciate the time allocated. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. We got very excited to hear about this grant when it first announced in February. The grant was announced in Los Angeles, by the governor, talking about how this grant would become or bring a lot of factory-built housing to wildfire communities. Just a little bit of background about Remo. We are a small business factory-built manufacturer right here in Los Angeles, located in Gardena. We're disabled and service disabled, and also a small minority-owned company here. And we put together, I believe, a comprehensive grant with support from Los Angeles County Planning, with the USC School of Architecture, industry, not just for our region, but for the entire state, creating new factory-built housing lending programs, create, I should say, workforce training and so on and so forth. And we were disappointed to receive our scoring. We lost by only half a point, and which was fine. We respect the staff. However, we noticed that the staff in scoring made a series of errors. For example, the interview is supposed to be 60 minutes, where we lost the most amount of points, and it was only 25 minutes, well below even the 30 minutes that was advertised. So we filed an appeal with support from our local assembly member, Mike Capin. However, the appeal was immediately denied. So we would like the council to review if procedures were violated, especially conflict between the guidelines, both for interview scoring and also application scoring, and reconsider equitable geographic distribution and industry experience and other things to make this successful. Thank you, council.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Ryan Blowers. think we've given you permission to unmute if you're able to. And if you're on phone, sometimes *6 helps to unmute.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you guys hear
Good
me?
afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, council members. I'm Ryan Blowers. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Remo Homes. Like Vamsi mentioned, he's my partner. We are a factory-built housing manufacturer in Gardena. We do have a pre-approved plan in the housing program as well. I know that the previous speaker mentioned something about that. I'm going to be direct. This program exists in large part because of the Eaton and Palisades fires. The governor's own announcements named Los Angeles, specifically LA County, lost more housing than any region in the state. And factory-built housing was held up as a way to get families home faster. So it's genuinely difficult to understand how this round ended with only a fraction of funding in Southern California and not a single award to a large Los Angeles project. Let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not asking you to reverse a decision. I'm not disputing that other regions have real needs. But when the region at the center of the crisis this program was built to address comes away with little to nothing, it's not a scoring footnote. It's a question about whether the program is reaching the people it was created for. The state already has a factory-built housing base in Southern California ready to build. Directing capacity and dollars elsewhere doesn't just disappoint applicants like us, it slows the recovery for the fire survivors who were promised this tool. We're not going anywhere. We'll keep building and we'll keep wanting to help LA recover. I'm asking the council to make sure this program helps us do that. And thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Dana Cuff.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Dana. I think we can hear you.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the Strategic Growth Council for nominating our project for funding. My name is Dana Cuff. I'm the founding director of CityLab, UCLA. CityLab is UCLA's interdisciplinary hub for design-driven urban research. And for the last 20 years, we've successfully combined policy insight with on-the-ground design prototyping to create more just, affordable, sustainable, and high-quality housing across Los Angeles and the state. The SGC's factory-built housing program comes at an important time in California's housing trajectory. While we continue to face severe housing affordability pressures and supply constraints, the factory-built industry has now improved the speed and quality of its production to be able to make a real contribution to our state's housing goals. Our team includes CityLab, Abundant Housing LA, which is one of the region's foremost policy advocacy groups, and Villa, one of the region's foremost offsite construction builders. Our project is titled Unlocking Factory-Built Housing, Factory-Built Missing Middle Housing. The project targets a current gap in the factory-built housing market, so-called missing middle housing. Situated between single-family homes and large apartment buildings, we see the construction of duplexes, fourplexes, courtyard buildings, and other small multifamily housing solutions as essential for reducing housing costs and building a more sustainable future. We ask a practical question: how can factory-built construction techniques contribute to the missing middle revolution? Our team is uniquely qualified to study this important topic, and we're so grateful to the SGC for giving us the opportunity to explore strategies for gently increasing sustainability and density in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Frank Richards.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Frank Richards. I am the chairman of the board for Building Lives or Building Structure and co-founder. We're here located in the Hoopa Valley Reservation, Northern California. BLBS is a 501c3, been going since 2020. We're a carpenter training program, and I train locals in carpentry, and I occupy 1/3 of our modular factory building that was building modular homes. It sat still for a long time. I came back from Washington in 2004 and kept on this program, this training program, this workforce development program, because we were needing people were living in some horrible conditions. And my job with the HIT program was to go into their homes and see if we could sanitary uh, safety and security their house for 35,000. And if we didn't, they got a single wide trailer. And it didn't help the situation if you had a bunch of people or maybe 2 or 3 families living there in your home. So we had this workforce development program going, and we got it. We got certified, and now we're doing with your guys' funding, and it's a blessing to continue our hemp panel building home. We had built one, and somebody's living it in Eureka, California. The licensed contractor who got it is the architect, and she's monitoring a bunch of stuff on that home. So it's going to be HCD certified hemp panel home, and I'm very excited to be building a co-housing community here on the reservation. It's a village. It's the way we used to be a long time ago, and we got away from it with traditional housing building and neighborhoods and being close to each other and the social interaction. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to thank you guys for the blessing, and listening to this is just amazing. You guys are an amazing group and for an amazing cause. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Daniel Arroyo.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear
Hello.
me? Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Uh, Good afternoon. Yeah, so my name is Daniel Arroyo, and I'm a floor supervisor at Remo Homes in Gardena. So I build factory homes, so right here in the Los Angeles area of for 3 different companies, and I've gotten laid off twice in the last couple of years. Not due not due to the work being slow, but because they got uh, sent to outside of state, and I was just um, so the work got sent to the factories outside of state, and I live in Long Beach, next to the Marathon refinery, and that refinery is one of the biggest source of capital investment in dollars in the fund. Um, they grant these very grants. So the pollution gets made in my community, and the money gets collected from my community, and the jobs go, and the housing goes somewhere else. That's backwards. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking that when the state spends money raised here, it builds homes and jobs here too. Keep the work in Los Angeles, and if you can keep people like me employed in the neighborhoods that pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Juan Bugarin.
Hi, I'm also part of the Remo team. I'm new in the city. I managed to get to Remo through a program from the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. And now I'm helping the team. And as a person that is also right now trying to become an Angelino and trying to see how this, or trying to understand how the grants and all this money that is going for is the main reason is to help develop more prefabricated and the modular housing factory system in the state. As my colleague Daniel, I'm just saying or try to reconsider the city of Los Angeles, what happened last year, and how can you reconsider this? Probably not for this, but in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Patrick Callerman.
Thanks so much, folks. Patrick Kellerman, Vice President of Public Policy at the Bay Area Council. The Bay Area Council is grateful to be selected for the Factory Built Regional Pilot Program, and I want to especially thank the SGC staff whose thoughtful guidance and responsiveness throughout the process made it possible and also made it a pleasure. We're eager to get to work with the cities of Sacramento, San Jose, and our partners to develop standardized permitting pathways feasibility tools and cost reduction strategies that make factory-built and mass timber housing easier to build across California. And we see this not as a single project, but as a model other regions can and hopefully will adopt. We're committed to sharing what we learn so that these benefits, lower costs, faster timelines, reduced embodied carbon, reach communities statewide. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Derek Martin.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Derek Martin. I'm the technical director of the Tahoe Prosperity Center, speaking on behalf of our project partners, Tahoe Earth Institute, the Berkeley Wood Lab, Alpenglow Timber, and the Sierra Business Council. I wanted to start by thanking the council and FBH team for recommending our project for an award and for the clear communication and outreach from staff throughout the process. We're grateful and we know how much this demand program is seeing across the state. This grant funds planning work towards a local mass timber factory-built housing pipeline in the Tahoe region using small diameter wood thinned from our overcrowded forests that are fire-prone, and we use an innovative approach that also cuts embodied carbon and greenhouse gases emissions compared to conventional construction. It ties directly into wildfire resilience and forest health, and into one of our most pressing needs, workforce housing for people who keep Tahoe running, including our local firefighters and essential workers who can't currently afford to live in the communities that they serve. We're already working with staff to responsibly rescope our plan, and we're eager to collaborate with other SGC grantees and take part in the community of practice so we can learn from our other regions and share with what we build here in Tahoe. We really wanted to thank the council for this opportunity, the large consideration they've given across the scope to planning statewide and regionally, and we respectfully ask this council to approve this award, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We'll hear next from Enrique Mutis.
Good afternoon, Strategic Growth staff and council members. My name is Enrique Mutis. I am joining you from the City of Anaheim Livability Lab, an innovation team using data to increase the supply of affordable housing and expand entry-level homeownership opportunities in our city. We want to thank you for this grant opportunity and share some insight into the impact that this grant will enable. As you well know, the housing crisis has no silver bullet, but it does have patterns. There are over 70 job centers in Southern California struggling to provide local workforce housing for the labor force that fuels their economy. Anaheim has the fourth largest job center in the region, and over half of its workers commute 10 to 50 miles each way. Through our partnership with SGC, the City of Anaheim is ready to position factory-built housing as a municipal solution to this regional problem. Modular will accelerate our supply of workforce housing, reduce vehicle mile travels and greenhouse gas emissions, lower living expenses for workforce households, and increase employee retention. Anaheim is thrilled to become a municipal leader in the factory-built housing space and exchange our learnings with our other peer municipalities. We are grateful for your partnership and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Chair, that brings us to the end of public comments for this item.
Great. Thank you for those participating in public comments, both here in person and virtually. I will now ask for a motion and a second to approve the staff's recommendations for round 3 of the factory-built housing pilot.
Happy to move.
I'll second.
Corey?
Yes.
Second. Vice Chair, motion.
Excellent. So we'll take a roll call vote. Chair Acefa?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cardenas?
Yes.
Secretary Deputy Secretary Kurgan? Undersecretary, excuse me. Undersecretary Kurgan? Undersecretary Bright?
Yes.
Deputy Secretary Jameson?
Yes.
Deputy Secretary Eisen?
Yes.
Deputy Secretary Kingsley?
Yes.
Assistant Chancellor Lucero?
Yes.
Chief Equity Officer Torres?
Yes.
And Public Member Capretz?
Yes.
And that is unanimous.
That is fantastic. Congratulations, Aaron, Sean, everybody. Yes. great milestone on this priority, and really look forward to the fruits of it once things get implemented. But kudos to the team and great feedback from the participants as well. So this is great. Now we'll move to the final item, which is a public comment for matters not on the agenda. Unfortunately, this is not a forum for dialogue with the council members. Questions posed by the public during this item cannot be substantively addressed or discussed at this meeting. Any required follow-up can be directed to SGC Executive Director Aaron Curtis for follow-up answers and connections to relevant staff. With that, Justin, reminder for public comments and
Thank you. So if members of the public would like to comment on this item, please submit a public comment card at the side table. And to make virtual public comment, please visit sgc.ca.gov/meetings-events/council to complete the public comment form. And at this time, we had one person registered online. We're not positive if she's still available, but Courtney Bonifaccini. If you're available, you can raise your hand, unmute. If you are on phone by any chance, *6 will help you unmute. And it may be that she's no longer in the meeting.
going once.
Yeah, going once. From our staff, we don't see any sign, right? Okay, well then I think we can perhaps end in suspense.
Great with that, and thank you, Justin, all the staff support here for putting together a good meeting today. And I think we're just only half an hour over time, I think.
And officially within or 5 minutes beyond our official end time.
Perfect. Well, thank you, council members, as well. Now this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all so much.
You're great.